he doesn't panic and think that I dropped.
That sounds
I just
good.
wanted to give him. I'm producing on the air live. Okay,
You
we're
have to do that
producing
sometimes.
live
Yep.
on the air, so I know they're getting ready to do a bunch of announcements and stuff, and we're outside because it's a beautiful, beautiful day here at Blue Hills Country Club, and for a great cause. You know what? Let's hear from, if we can, Patrick Mahomes last night, because look. He was brilliant. It was as good as Patrick Mahomes, except for the one odd, throwing across his. Why does he throw across his? Don't throw across your body, Patrick. You throw an interception. Just terrible mechanics, Josh. Terrible mechanics.
Just play football like a quarterback. Gosh dang it!
Come on.
Just stand. Put your feet in the pocket and throw the football.
Yeah. Step where you're throwing the football like you're taught, man. Okay.
Literally street ball stuff last night. Literally appropriately named NFL street bleep.
It was ridiculous street ball, man. It's that unnamed defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, was totally right that Patrick Mahomes is a one-read guy. He took one read on that fake to Burton and roll right, and then he was like, oh, let me cross over this guy and let me step back jumper here, and just total street ball. But let's hear from Patrick Mahomes on that play and what took place there.
Yeah, first off, I missed the wide open touchdown like the play before, or I got like in between, like I want to lob it to him or just dotted on him, and so I was upset with myself there. And then we rolled out, and they did a good job of kind of coming upfield, not going on that dive play that we kind of always run with Burton. But I was able to use my speed to get a little bit of speed to get around the edge there. And then I was going to run for it, and they kind of flew around, and I realized I wasn't going to make it, and I saw Clyde, and so I just kind of flicked it up to him.
In the middle of that, you spun.
Yep.
Were you still thinking of running at that point, or how did you?
When I spun, I think when the spin made me kind of decide to throw it again, because I knew once I spun, I wasn't going to be able to build the speed to get in there. Before that, I was thinking about getting to the pylon, but once I spun, I realized that Clyde was open.
Do you get surprised? I look, it happened, and I jumped out of my seat, and I just sort of laughed and, high-fived little man, and like, just what? And he doesn't get it, right? He's watched this essentially his whole life of being alive has been watching Patrick Mahomes and football that he kind of understands and gets. And so he's like, yeah, that was a touchdown. I'm like, yes, you're right. In the scorebook, it's a touchdown. Correct. It is the Major League fly ball caught with the diving catch in the left center that stopped a bases loaded, bases clearing double. Fly ball caught. Patrick Mahomes rolls right, throws a touchdown, and the Chiefs take a 21-10 lead or 21-3 lead, whatever it was at that point. I'm like, but those things, while sort of expected. And I know that, I know we talk about it all the time. I know we've seen so many times Patrick Mahomes does that. But I don't know that it ever gets old. I don't know that it can ever get old. And last night, it's, you say you'll see something different. You'll always see, Patrick Mahomes maybe do something left-handed pass, right? The running around against the 49ers and hitting Connolly, the running around and hitting Jerick McKinnon. But that was different, a spin move and sort of a little flick as well that happens. It was unbelievable. I shouldn't, get surprised by what I see from Greg Gurley. Greg Gurley's here. Of course Greg Gurley's here. There's a golf tournament and beer. So Greg Gurley's going to be here, of course, man. Yes. That's right. We're at Blue Hills Country Club. But it never ceases to amaze me what Patrick Mahomes does and how often golf and beer connects Greg Gurley. Those are the two things that really I never cease to be amazed at.
Yeah, two things you could set your watch by. Patrick Mahomes having a no, yes, sort of touchdown, and Gurley finding the golf and beer when applicable. I don't know if we want to get straight to the next Andy Reid clip on that front or not. You did the mic cut thing there, so I wasn't sure. We're playing in midair. But you say, hey, don't ever take that for granted. Andy Reid was pretty happy to say that was a special play from Mahomes to Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a special quarterback making it.
Yeah, just the fact that he knew where he was spinning to was good enough for me. And to be able to get it off and then complete it. And for 25 to get his feet in was good too. There wasn't a lot of room there. He's had a lot of phenomenal plays, and I always remind the coaches, don't take it for granted, man. Those things, I probably say the same thing to our media here, that's special. And so you enjoy every one of those, man, every one of them. That's, you just don't see that very often.
I tweeted out this morning that, I woke up with that Patrick Mahomes plays for the Chiefs feeling because it's just like, anytime he goes to the field, you got a chance to see something special. Sheil Kapadia tweeted this out last night, and I think it's worth mentioning just because of how well the offense has been this year, even though we talk about the Chargers and we talk about whatever the heck happened against the Colts. But EPA per drive, they're first. Points per drive, they're first. Points per game, they're second. Success rate, they're third. And EPA per pass attempt, or per drop back, Patrick Mahomes is number one in the NFL with starting quarterbacks. So he's been pretty good this year. The Chiefs' offense has been pretty good this year. And the running game was there last night. Like, I loved that the offensive line responded. They didn't play a perfect game. There's still some issues with Orlando Brown, right? I mean, we know that, he's not a perfect left tackle. He doesn't deserve high-end money at left tackle spot. But, I mean, good enough as far as those front five against a good front four for the Bucs. There were so many different plays that happened last night that I put a star next to. But one that stood out besides the obvious Clyde Edwards-Helaire, touchdown was 3rd down and 7, and they were driving, and he ends up getting a first down. Does Patrick Mahomes scrambling to his left? They get down to the 10-yard line. It might have been the drive that he ends up throwing the pass to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he escapes from the pocket. He rolls left, and then he dives for the pylon or dives for the first down marker at the 10. And the reason I started is because the 3 players around him were Shaq Barrett, Levante David, and Devon White. Just like or Devin White, whatever. I just love that it was those 3 players that were around Patrick Mahomes chasing him to the 10-yard line where the marker was, and he dives for the first down, and they get a touchdown on that drive. I don't know why that stood out. It's just those guys were so much all in his face in the Super Bowl. And Shaq Barrett, with the comments that he had, last week, just sort of giving fuel to the fire for Patrick Mahomes in this offense, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm glad they responded like that because we got a chance to see a focused, ready-to-go, full-on team that was the game plan was phenomenal. The execution was phenomenal. And the offense was really, really good. The running game worked. Hey, you know what? And to your guys' credit, Josh Beards, I wrote this down.
Yes.
I wrote this down. I saw some Pacheco last night that I liked.
That's
and
right,
I said,
you
know
did.
what? That's what people were seeing. Maybe they were looking through a glass that seemed pretty dirty to me.
Sure.
To look through to find it.
Perhaps even with a faint pink hue.
Yes, that's right, for sure. And I saw that last night. I thought, okay, there's some explosiveness. There's a difference to Edwards-Helaire. There's seeing a hole and hitting it and picking up 8 or 9 yards rather than just simply saying, okay, I'm supposed to go here where the play is blocked to, so I'm going to run into this guy's butt because that's where I'm supposed to go on this one. I liked what I saw from Isaiah Pacheco. I like what the running backs look like. And if Pacheco gets more carries, okay. If he's looking like that, that's perfectly fine. I thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire was really good last night, too. And he finds a way to get in the end zone. And I'm assuming you guys are going ahead and chalking up the touchdowns for Edwards-Helaire over-under as a loss this year.
Yeah, I think there's a chance on the rushing yard still. But, yeah, the touchdown one, that's okay.
Yeah.
I can take that out. At least I didn't have McCole Hardman leading the team in receiving. Well,
for a second there, I thought I did. Oh yeah, that's right, Beards.
Yeah, that's
Beards.
Beards.
I didn't have a. Oh, it's Beards.
No, you would never.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody's giving you a standing ovation, Beards.
Good job, Beards.
Well, at least somebody is.
Wow.
Good
McCole
job,
Hardman.
Beards. Good pick, Beards. I know we got to wrap up and take a break, which really feels good with the crowd, the round of applause. This is the best I've ever felt doing radio. But I've got some more from the offensive line, some more on Voldemort's name, who you've already mentioned once, and I want to save. But as you said, just so many places we could reasonably start, specifically to Pacheco. You know what I saw from him that I had not seen before? Patience. He not stopping, not quite prime Le'Veon Bell, who is always who I think of when I think of running back patience, but he kind of comes up a little bit, chops his feet for a second, and then retains his explosiveness whenever he restarts. That's a rare trait, and you can just see that with your bare eyes last night. I mean, that is an explosiveness, a jitteriness, and a physicality from him that I don't need to see him get every single carry every single week, but I'm really excited for them to have him as a tool in the toolbox, if you will.
Absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We're hanging out here at Blue Hills Country Club for theKidsKC.com, FORE, theKidsKC.com. A really awesome foundation, goes to a great cause. They have raised literally millions of dollars to give to Children's Mercy, the anxiety and depression clinic that is there at Children's Mercy, reaching out to help stop teen suicide, and that is something that they've been battling and giving all of their resources to is for theKidsKC.com. forethekids.com, F-O-R-E, thekids.kc.com. You can also go and get tickets for the dinner tonight. Bill Self will be there at the dinner tonight as well, along with, I'm told, 4 players from the national championship team. I was not told which ones. Just 4 players will be there from the national championship team, along with Bill Self. And Greg Gurley, of course, will be there as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. A few things that I think added to the enjoyment and the fun last night, besides just how they played, right? A few things that were that just gained that extra element there. We'll also talk defense. 31 points they gave up, but what did it really mean? What did we see? Third down efficiency, the offensive line, a bounce-back game. We'll hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from L'Jarius Sneed and his acting skills. We'll hear from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and we'll hear more about Patrick Mahomes, because why not? More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're in the zone.
Let's start with sports. Do you guys still have the 6 TV question?
We do have that one. That is Tua Tagovailoa had a big day on Sunday in the comeback win.
With Jason Anderson.
Tua Tagovailoa
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
913-810-810 is the phone number. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join the show. Text says, it's a good point, says something that was maybe lost in the win last night was the good hands by Chris Jones picking up the fumble after the hit by Snead. That's absolutely right. I thought when he reached down to pick it up, I thought, just fall on it, damn it. He did. He got it. That's all that matters. And L'Jarius Snead with the great acting, and he talked about that last night as well with the good acting too. You know what? Because we've been loving up some Patrick Mahomes. Can we play the little song that we put together this morning for Patrick Mahomes with the inspiration of what Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his first response when he was asked about the touchdown from Patrick Mahomes and a little spin and pirouette and then a little flick to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Here's that little montage.
That's Pat, man.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat.
And Kelce goes with Mahomes, who tried to get away from it, flips it out there, and it's complete to Juju Smith-Schuster for the first down.
A lot of people ask, who's he? It's Pat.
Mahomes rips it, and it's caught by Kelce for the first down in front of Carlton Davis. That's Pat, man. First down, deep shot down the middle of the field, brought in at the 15-yard line by Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
A lot of people ask, who's he? It's Pat.
Mahomes, he'll dance out to the left with some space to take off and lean forward for the 10-yard line and get the first down. That's Pat, man.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat.
Mahomes out of the pocket and on the run. Sky Moore inside the 10. Moore at the 5-yard line.
A lot of people ask, who's he? It's Pat.
Mahomes to the goal line and in for the touchdown, Jody Fortson. Everybody's getting into the end zone here tonight. That's Pat, man.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat.
You never know with these guys. From the 2, Mahomes escaping. On the move, Mahomes stops, spins, flips it forward for the touchdown to Edwards-Helaire. Mahomes straddled the line of scrimmage, flipped it to Edwards-Helaire for the score.
Here comes Pat.
That's Pat, man.
It's just Pat. It's just Patrick Mahomes. Before we take a break, and we're going to sit down with Kevin Timmons here from Nick and Jake's and the For the Kids KC.org is where you can go and check out everything that they do here with For the Kids, FORE the Kids. Third down efficiency last night. I saw this from Craig Stout that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had given up 13 third down conversions in the first 3 games total. And the Chiefs converted 12 last night. They converted 11 when it was going to 41. When they got to 41 points, they had converted 11 of 15. Really, to get to they converted one more out of the 1 of 2 after that, but that was just when they were running out the clock, right? On those downs, the average was 3rd and 4 for those 11 of 15, third down conversions. The average yards gained were 8. They averaged 8 yards per play on their 15 third down attempts. Not their third down attempts that were successful. I'm talking about all of their third down attempts. All 15 of them, they averaged 8 yards per play. 30% of the yards last night they picked up were on third down. They had a 22-yarder, a 20-yarder, a 19, a 16, a 13, a 7, a 7, a 6, a 6, a 4. All of those yards on third down plays. That was the brilliance. That, to me, is what took it to another level last night of the entertainment and how awesome it was, is because if the Chiefs were crap on third down, I think we're having a different conversation today. But they were brilliant on third down, so it increased the anxiety level, right? It increased this is a big third down. Oh, a big play. Oh, there's a big third down. Oh, another big play. There's a big third down. Hey, a big conversion. And that was last night. It was just phenomenal watching that, and I think the defense did just enough. And another little stat to pass along as well, the Chiefs' defense gave up only 3 points when they were up by less than 3 scores last night. They gave up a field goal when they were up by less than 3 points.
Wow.
3 scores,
yeah.
I should say. And when it was 21-10 and the Bucs had a chance to go and gain momentum, they ran one play and the defense got the ball right back. So if we're looking at it and going, well, the defense, they gave up all those passing yards, they couldn't really get stops, they gave up 31 points. I don't know that Spags runs the same exact game plan if this thing is a back-and-forth, low-scoring 21-14, 21-17 game. At that point, you knew you had a lead. You couldn't give up big plays to let them back in it, so have them drive down the field and take longer to score, and your offense was going to do what they can do. So gave up 3 points last night when the team was up by less than 3 scores. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue hanging out here at Blue Hills Country Club for the kids, kc.org, FORE, thekidskc.org. We'll hang out with Kevin Timmons and John Barnes coming up next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. You're in the zone.
Food here?
Yeah, we'll keep asking questions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jesse.
With Jason Anderson.
I was just curious.
Gary, I'm sorry, the food's here.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Blue Hills Country Club, hanging out here for the KidsKC.org, for the Kids KC golf tournament going on right now. And joined by a couple of guys who are very influential in this, either starting it or now chairman of the board, Kevin Timmons, and also John Barnes joining us here in the zone. Fellas, how are you?
Fantastic.
Good, good.
Great, beautiful day.
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
Could not get better weather than today.
79 degrees. High today.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about going out and just taking the show off and going playing, but Chad said that was...
Bring it on.
Yeah, Chad said don't do that.
Oh, it's sold out, I think.
Yeah,
You
said,
can't call in sick if you're already on the air. Is that the problem?
I think that's the... Oh, man, I'm just... all of a sudden, I'm coming down with the 9-hole flu. I don't know what it is, man. I'm just not feeling great right now. I'll feel good in about 8 more holes.
You should have pre-recorded the show is what you should have done.
Put the whole thing on tape and just go and play. Kevin Timmons and John Barnes. Kevin, we'll start with you. And for the kids, KC.org, this foundation, getting it rolling and now full-on 501c3, the origin of this into what it's grown to where millions and millions of dollars are being donated and given to Children's Mercy and things like that.
Well, seriously, it started out as a harmless, drunken sports bar tournament. I mean, 18 years ago, we were a couple years in, and all of the bar regulars were like, we need to have a golf tournament. And so we did, and we raised $15,000 or $20,000. I think back then it was for the Sunflower House for the first couple of years. And in 2009, we connected with Children's Mercy because I was visiting a friend of the family on the third floor 2 or 3 times, trying to figure out what the diagnosis was, and just fell in love with the staff and the nursing and the bright colors and the doctors. And at that point, I asked them if what we could do to help them, and they said, "We'll get back to you." And certainly, I got an email with a lot of equipment, and I said, "What can we do to put a smile on a kid's face?" Mm-hmm. And we bought laptops. We bought these Panasonic Toughbook laptops. They're very expensive. We only bought 5 the first year. And what we had left over, my daughter actually negotiated with the general manager of Blockbuster Video.
Nice, yeah. So it was last week.
And
then.
got 250 kids' videos for $1 each, and that cleared our bank account out. And that was the start with Children's. We ended up putting an iPad on every bed in all their hospitals, so families can use them, kids could use them. They can pull down homework. They can play games. Doctors and nurses use them to show them what's coming up, and then we were challenged with, okay, what do we do next? And we started a canine program. We helped with getting equipment for some of their clinics, and when it came down to it, Children's says, you know what we need is we need ambulances. We have 5 ambulances on the road, and the newest one has 250,000 miles on it. Wow. And so we've never bought anything that much. So right. we raised $320,000 that year to buy an ambulance. We went back to them the following year and said, well, okay, what can we do now? They said, we need ambulances.
Double down.
We need
another
one.
So we doubled down. So we bought 2.
Wow.
And I got some great donations from the car dealers, but got some great donations from our donors and our employees and so forth. The next year, we lost Nick to suicide, Nick and Jake's, and this almost became we almost stopped doing it.
Yeah.
and Children's Mercy had pivoted the same time that we were pivoting towards mental health, and we realized that Children's Mercy Hospital was making mental health one of their main strategic planks, and we said, we're in. In those first couple years, there wasn't an ambulance, there wasn't an iPad, there wasn't brick and mortar. It was hard to sell to our donors, but guess what? Our donors stepped up. They stepped up and even gave more. The community gave more. Our guests at Nick and Jake's gave more. And we supported school districts. We helped staff psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists, Children's Mercy South. We helped put social workers in all the Blue Valley high schools. And by the way, I cannot believe we're going to be celebrating this, but Blue Valley hasn't had a suicide in over a year.
You know, something to celebrate.
I guess it's something to celebrate.
It's a big thing to celebrate.
Yeah, it's hard. So, and you probably just are seeing some of the school district superintendents and counselors here today. There's a small, organic summit happening at Blue Hills here while the golfers are playing, and talking with Children's Mercy about the current state and condition of mental health. So we're real excited. I'm real excited last year to have stepped down as the president of For the Kids, and I'm really honored to introduce John Barnes, who for the next 2 years is going to be the chairman of the board of For the Kids, and he'll tell you a little bit about what we're fighting for right now.
Yeah, so John Barnes, chairman of the board with For the Kids, and Kevin talking about you stepping in for the next couple of years. So where it was to now where it's going, your motivation for saying going to be involved, but now chairman of the board as well because of what you believe in, what they're doing, and where the future is for the Kids. And it's For the Kids, FORE, thekidskc.org if you want to donate or anything like that.
Yeah, so two things. One, unfortunately, the need and the pivot to mental health that Kevin talked about, unfortunately, the need has never been greater. And so that's the future state, or the current state. Hopefully the future state is that, we can address that and we can help out, and that's the motivation. And the For the Kids Foundation, as Kevin talked about a long time ago, started as a bar golf outing. It's a long way from that now, but 2 years ago, Kevin's a humble guy. 2 years ago was the first tournament that cleared and donated over $1 million in one day. Wow. I've been part of hundreds of charity golf tournaments, and a really, really good one clears 100 and donates 100,000. Yeah. That's a huge day. You're doing a great job if you can donate $100,000 after a golf tournament. 2 years ago was the first year. It was over $1 million. Last year was $1.25 million. So after the $1 million year, Kevin and also Dan Byler, who were the two guys who kind of the fathers of For the Kids, said, you know what? This thing has grown beyond our wildest dreams. We think we can take it up another level. And so we've expanded the board to add other really, really talented and passionate people to our board. We made a critical decision, and we hired our first ever executive director. Tracy McDonald is now a full-time employee, the executive director of For the Kids, and she's doing a phenomenal job. Incredible job. And last year, we put a lot of effort into, before last year's tournament, rebranding the tournament to really highlighting For the Kids Foundation. Yeah. And not, I've played in this thing for 20 years. I mean, it's always, hey, are you playing in the Nick and Jake's golf tournament? It's a long way from that. That was great. This is better. Yeah. It's the
he was the president of Pepsi, and Nick and Jake sold Coke.
I love it. Always good promotion.
And Nick and Jake sold Coke, and he still played in our golf tournament.
Yeah. I've never worked harder trying to get a customer that I never got.
I'm playing in your tournament, man.
I've never failed better, I guess you would say, than all the years I worked at Pepsi, and I wanted to put Pepsi in Nick and Jake's. Never made it happen, and out of that I got one of my best friends in the world right here, Kevin Timmons. And so Where we're at today is we're going to have a great day today, I know, and we're going to create some magic tonight.
That's right.
And because after golf, there's nothing better than having you get some really good people with really big hearts and maybe pretty good sized wallets, and you put a little adult beverages in them, and then you create magic in the auction.
Yeah.
And we'll have a great auction tonight, and we'll raise a whole bunch of money again. And this year, as Kevin talked about, when the pivot to mental health, it became difficult to explain to our sponsors, what are you doing with the money? And because that's, it wasn't an ambulance so you could park outside the restaurant and say, look at what we bought. But this year, starting this year, I think the mission has never been more clear, and that is we are 100% focused on funding the new anxiety and depression clinic at Children's Mercy Hospital. And let me just, if I can, explain that really fast. I mean, if you have I always say it like this: if you have a kid that breaks their leg, and you take them to Children's Mercy, they cast it, go back 8 weeks later, take the cast off, you see the bone is healed, insurance helped you pay for that, boom, you're good. You have a child that has a broken mind, or you don't know what to do. The first thing, most critical thing, is talk to somebody about it. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. The one message we want to deliver: it's okay. In fact, it's mandatory to talk about it. You have to talk about it, seek help. But when you go to seek help, you don't know what to do. And that's a challenge that a lot of parents are in when they have this situation. So we're trying to address that with our partner, Children's Mercy. They're doing a great job. And they're going to open the first of its kind anxiety and depression clinic where parents can have a place to go and kids can get triaged into, okay, what kind of help do they need and where do we go from here? And this is a huge step in the battle of mental health. I mean, a huge step.
We hope 5,000 kids get seen in 2023.
Yeah.
Well, we hope 5,000 kids don't need to be seen, but we know that they will. We know that they will.
That's the thing. It's like you'll hear like numbers increase, and it's like, well, now they're seeing more kids than ever before and more kids than ever before. And so it's like twofold. It's one, there's probably an increase, but the increase in awareness and the increase of seeking help is going to then raise the numbers of that as well. So where kids in the past weren't going and receiving the treatment and receiving the help, it doesn't mean they didn't need it. They are just now seeking it, receiving it. And those numbers are like, wow, look at all the numbers that we're dealing with. Yeah, because that was a need for so long.
That's right. In fact, Children's Mercy has great stats on this. In fact, more than 50% of the kids that need help never got treatment, never got any kind of treatment because parents don't know where to go. People don't know where to go. And that's, with this new anxiety and depression clinic, that's what we're trying to address. And our job, for the kids, our job is to raise money.
Yeah.
And we don't provide services. We have a great partner that does that. But our job, we are going to fund this clinic, and we're going to make sure that it happens, so that hopefully a parent knows what to do when or where to go, or at least can make a phone call or go there and get some good direction on what to do.
Well, one of the great things you can do is try to find some sort of positive from a tragedy, and probably countless lives would be saved by not going that route because of seeking help. So not the easiest thing to do is try to find an outlet and a way to do that from something that happens that is unthinkable.
I mean, for sure. I mean, it's an unthinkable tragedy, and my friend right here went through that. And a lot of our passion and our drive is hoping that no parent ever has to go through what Kevin and his family went through. And again, seek help. Talk about it. And our job this year is to begin to fund this clinic where people can get help, because there really hasn't been that before. I mean, you first step, talk about it, figure out what you can do. Second step, where do I get help? And that's where the second step stopped. It's like, oh, I can get in to see this psychiatrist or psychologist or something. Yeah, I can get you on the calendar 6 months from now. Well, this clinic will allow you to get at least some help, at least some triage and some help for kids right away in current time.
Yeah. Kids with acute problems need immediate need.
Yeah. So the website, where can people go? Obviously, the tournament, they're not going to show up today and just go and start to, play a couple of holes, but to donate, to help out, things like that.
Well, go to FORE, for the kids, KC.org, and there's a lot of ways that you can help. You can donate. You can become a volunteer. We've got a separate event coming up in January, Lifting Spirits. Will be
Lifting Spirits for the kids.
For the kids will be a bourbon raffle.
Oh,
and,
okay. Yeah.
We think that in a year or two, this will be the biggest bourbon raffle in the country.
Wow.
We've already got quite a thing going. We'll talk more about that later.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
I can tell you that Radio 810 Union Broadcasting has been our partner for all 18 years. We've always had this little bit of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
The year we lost Nick, Lebo called me, and I couldn't do an interview that year, and we've just made some changes. We've made some differences, and you guys have been very helpful. I can't thank Radio 810 enough.
Well, just getting the word out for the real work that's being done, and those that are helping raise the money, those that are donating, and then those that are actually putting that to use and helping everybody out. So Kevin Timmons and John Barnes, really appreciate the time. You guys hanging out here.
Well, sorry to get you out of the office all day.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Maybe I'll take a break and I'll go hit some over at the driving range. I'm not sure.
Come on,
but,
man, come on.
We got the Tito's girl coming around in a minute.
Is it too late? Is it too late today to still go online and be and come to the party tonight?
It's not too late.
You can go online, and for $75 you can get a social ticket for tonight. Come to have dinner, have an auction, have some drinks. And by the way, is it okay? Is it okay? Right? Come listen to Bill Self.
Hey,
and three of his national championship players.
He's actually got
tonight. They're going to be here tonight. They're going to be here tonight.
Bill's bringing 4 players out this evening. For $75, you can come out, get dinner, drinks, the whole deal, and then Bill's going to have a kind of a town hall format moderated by probably drunken Greg Gurley at that time.
You just say Greg Gurley. It's assumed. It's assumed, Kevin. You just say Greg Gurley. It's when he's not. Then you have to then actually qualify with, well, there would be a sober Greg Gurley there.
Yeah, but Greg Gurley and Chad, of course, helped set all this up. We can't thank them enough. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, you
Thank
guys
you,
get back
A10.
to work.
Thank
I know
you,
you got
Jason.
plenty of stuff to do. Thank you so much. That's Kevin Timmons.
Keep your head down.
Yeah.
Too much my advice.
My left arm straight, right?
And, John
Thank you,
Barnes
guys.
joining us for the kids, FORE, thekidskc.org. We take a timeout. We come back. More Zone hanging out at Blue Hills right after this on a Monday.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I'm kind of feeling like Twitter has less of a bot problem and more of a butt problem.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Rolling on here in the Zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm Joshua Brisco here in studio as Jason Anderson's out at Blue Hills Country Club. forthekids.org. Again, more information on everything you just heard Jason talk about with Kevin Timmons, John Barnes of Nick and Jake's. Again, For the Kids, F-O-R-E, forthekids.org. Obviously, incredibly important, impactful cause to rally behind. So, for more information, you can visit them again there at forthekidskc.org. Sorry, I think I missed the KC the first time I read through that. forthekidskc.org will get you there. I imagine that we will talk plenty about all sorts of Chiefs things with and without Jason, but I mentioned last segment that I had a stat from the offensive line that I wanted to bring to the table as we look around and see that the O-line had an incredible night last night. The running game was chugging. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked good. Isaiah Pacheco even won a little bit of Jason's love back in the first hour. But I saw this morning from our friend Adam Teicher of ESPN. Numbers from ESPN Stats and Info show why Chiefs were so good in the run game last night. They had a run block win rate of 83.3%, which is second best in the NFL for games played in Week 4. As a comparison, the Chiefs had a 66.1% win rate last week versus the Colts. Individual numbers show nice games from Andrew Wiley and Creed Humphrey in particular. Wiley won on 96% of pass blocks and 84.8% of run blocks. Humphrey was 100% on pass blocks, 87.9% on run blocks. Jason, I was very, very pleased with the O-line's bounce-back game there after things looked incredibly scary in Week 3. I thought Week 3, the biggest culprit there was the special teams, but the biggest concern was the offensive line. Last night, literally no concern whatsoever in the running game, the passing game, maybe a little bit. You mentioned Orlando Brown where his health is and all of that, but especially on the ground, the O-line was just moving dudes.
Yeah, I liked what I saw last night, and it was a good response because the Colts defense isn't as good as the Bucs. And if we're like last week coming out of that game, we spent a good portion of last week saying, what are issues that are long-term? What are issues that are blips on the radar?
Yep.
And the concern we had was what's going on with the offensive line. Is this something where they can just simply improve execution, or is there an issue that they are playing as high of a level as they can given health? That being Orlando Brown and Trey Smith. And if you have a couple of guys on your offensive line that are hampered even just a little bit, now this guy gets the edge on the right guard, and this guy turns the corner, so Mahomes sees the pressure coming from the right guard. He fades to his left. Oh, whoops, Orlando Brown's getting beat, and now it's a sack, or it's a negative play, or it's just an incomplete pass or something like that. You got a couple of guys that are playing underneath the expectation of how they can play. You hope they can improve. And if it was a health thing, then it's a matter of when can they improve. If it's not a health thing, then there is an expected level that they should get back to playing to. That was a big concern last week, and so that's what I am very pleased with last night from the offensive line is that they weren't perfect, right? I mean, no offensive line is ever going to have a perfect game, and against that front, you're going to have to be ready to go. But there was a tweet last night, and I can't remember who it was because there were 1,000 tweets last night, of just singling out Trey Smith against Vita Vea. And he's bull rushed, and Trey Smith, takes a couple of steps back and then anchors and then ends up tossing Vea just to the ground. And it's like, that doesn't happen to him. He doesn't have that happen to him very often, and it did happen in that game. And so that was a positive sign to see Trey Smith be able to do that. So, yeah, the offensive line, I thought coming out of that game was impressive. And it feels like more of the Colts, a blip on the radar. But it's also a reminder that they are not infallible. It's also a reminder that they can't go into a game and lose. So there are games where they can go into and you go, well, yeah, they can lose this. And like any game the rest of the way. If they go and lose to the Colts where it felt like it was that big of a mismatch, and then the Colts lose at home to the Titans, in which, the Titans had a pretty decent lead throughout most of it. It got, close later on in that game. But if they can go in there and play that bad against the Colts, then yeah, they could struggle next, a week from today against the Raiders. They could struggle against the Jags, certainly. And I don't even want to go Jags because, the Jags are playing some decent football, and they were leading the Eagles. I mean, the still lone undefeated team. And they've got the Texans later on this year. So, yeah, they can go into a game and just simply lay an egg. But you don't expect that to happen when it's crunch time, when it is against teams that they look across and say, these are our peers, things like that. You don't expect that to happen. And remember Eric Bieniemy on Thursday when he said, we got our ass kicked. And he said it a few times, and then I wrote down that quote because I thought that really stood out. When he said, they kicked our ass, we got exactly what we deserved, you're not good enough to think you can just show up and win. Now, isn't that the coaches saying what they thought the team did against the Colts? That they didn't have a good week of preparation, whatever it might have been, coming off a big win against the Chargers. You got a couple of extra days off, so you feel like you can just relax and chill a little bit more. The Bucs are a big game coming up that next week on Sunday Night Football. The Colts aren't that good. So you're feeling pretty good about yourself. You're feeling yourself a little bit. And Eric Bieniemy said, you got humbled. So when he says it was good to get humbled, he said we got our ass kicked. And he said, you're not good enough to go into a game and just think you can show up and win in the NFL. I mean, those are indications of what the coaches felt like the team prepared and got ready for the Colts last week or 2 weeks ago. And this last week we heard the story of Andy Reid pregame or the night before saying, the week you guys have had a preparation, you're going to go out there and play awesome football. You guys are going to play awesome football because of what you've done this week. And they did that. And there's that belief that goes into it. And they came out and just fired on all cylinders. And, listening to the stats about the offensive line, Josh, I think we could probably do an hour of the show of just counterpoint, not even counterpoint, but just you go, I go, of just, okay, here's a cool stat from last night. Mm-hmm. I've got a cool stat. Josh, your turn. Here's a cool stat. Oh, I read this tweet about this stat. Oh, your turn. You go. We could probably do an hour of all the stuff. Like, it was almost like this morning I'm trying to, figure out how to organize everything, and it's like I'm just drowning in all these crazy stats, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Let me write that. Oh, that's a good one. Let me write that down. Yeah, cool. Now that you've got the stats done, what are you going to talk about? You dumbass. What do you, besides just remember that time where Mahomes spun around and threw the touchdown? That was awesome.
I think that could be 4 hours. I think we could just do that for 4 hours, honestly. But yeah, if you don't want to, that's fine. Don't let me be the one that stops you, though.
No, we absolutely could, man. And I think we've hit on some of the bigger points in the first hour and then, starting on this hour. So in the first hour, we talked about how big of a bounce-back game it was for the Chiefs. And by the way, 913-3810810, if you want to weigh in, we do have open phone lines. We'll talk with Field Yates at noon. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up in the noon hour as well. Learn Funniest Best, all still to come here in the show. We talked about how big of a bounce-back game it was for this Chiefs team. We talked about when they play their A game like that, which teams can, play with the Chiefs. That, if the Chiefs play, like they did against the Colts, yeah, teams can beat them. If they play like that and bring their A game, it then requires the other team to play to their max level, and then it might be just a coin flip game back and forth. We talked about how we're done with the game-by-game referendums on this offense with and without Tyreek Hill. That against the Cardinals, the offense was fine without Tyreek Hill. Against the Chargers, it was really about the defense. And the Chargers made some good plays, but the defense was really good. And the Colts was about this is what happens when you don't have Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs wide receivers and yada, yada, yada. And then last night, it's, oh, my goodness, look how good the Chiefs are. EPA per drive, they're first, and points per drive, they're first. And Patrick Mahomes and EPA per, drop back is first in the NFL. And, they're really good. Do they even need Tyreek Hill anymore? Like, every single week, it doesn't need to be how good or bad this team is or this offense is with and without Tyreek because, Patrick Mahomes in the games that he has played, the 8 games without number 10, he completes 65% of his passes. He throws for 320 yards per game, and in the 8 games, he's thrown 19 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Turns out he's a really good player. Turns out Tyreek Hill's a really good player as well. I think both can survive without the other. Tyreek is surviving. Patrick Mahomes is surviving. So if the offense struggles against the Raiders on Monday night, I would like to avoid the Well, see, that no Tyreek Hill. This is what happens. Okay, so then what was the Bucs? What was the Colts? Were those the anomalies that stood out? Because I thought Juju Smith-Schuster played fine. I thought MVS played fine outside the drop pass on third and short, in which apparently Kelsey, did the wrong thing and made it a little more congested than it should have been. Outside of that, I thought the wide receivers were perfectly fine. Sky Moore made some plays. MVS with the big catch down the seam. Juju Smith-Schuster breaking tackles after catching the ball, those yards after catch. Kelsey was his brilliant Kelsey self. McCole Hardman had his one catch, 4 yards. The typical things you see from the wide receivers. And the running game, did what they needed to do. The offense is fine. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Andy Reid. It's Eric Bieniemy. It's Matt Nagy. And it's the best tight end in the NFL, the best quarterback in the NFL, an offensive line that's good enough, and wide receivers that are not just scrubs that you threw out there and found off the street. Like, the wide receiver group is not what they've been trying to find with kickers the last few weeks. They've got some guys who can make plays and who are good players, and that's what you need. Scheme them open, make the throw, make the catch, move the chains, and go on down the field. They were incredibly efficient on third down last night, and that's the one thing. It's like, can you live off being 72, 73% on third down against really good teams? You'd like to avoid as many third downs as possible, right? You'd like to avoid those things. And each drive they had, outside of the first drive, right? Each drive they had big third downs that they had to convert. And so those are those do-or-die plays. Defense gets off the field, offense stay on the field, continue that drive, and a drop pass here, or Mahomes doesn't flip it over to Juju Smith-Schuster, in the air on third and short when he's getting pulled down, and, they end up scoring a touchdown on that drive and go up 14-3. That's incomplete. They're punting the ball back to the Bucs up 7-3. Maybe they're down 10-7 at that point. Like, little plays like that start to accumulate that did not happen against the Colts is how you go and beat and control a game against what I believe to be a good team, despite the fact of a Bucs fan last night that was telling me that this Bucs team is not good and there is nothing impressive about the Chiefs. This is more about how bad the Bucs are. So
don't worry, we'll hear about that on Tuesday from Ted fans.
Yes. All right. I am looking forward to that.
You mentioned Voldemort's name again. I'm not sure if he's actually reached Voldemort status, but I feel like it might be good for the general discourse if we give Tyreek Hill that honor at some point.
Okay.
But you touched on something that I want to expand even bigger than you made it just there, because I think that this might be it. I think that today, or maybe this week if you really want to unpack it, I think this week might be the last week that we have to mention Tyreek Hill in the context of the Chiefs. Yeah. And because I know you're sick of it. I know a lot of Chiefs fans are sick of viewing everything through a Tyreek Hill prism. Because it's exhausting. He's not on the team, and I totally understand that. But I think I said his name before I said the name of any active Kansas City Chiefs last night on the postgame show. And I was aware of it immediately. I knew what I did. I didn't mean to do it that way. But here's why I do think that last night's game is the last time that you should view the Chiefs through the Tyreek Hill prism. Not just in the repetitive single-game storylines, and is this who they are, is that who they are, but specifically, I think last night was the proof of concept for the entire Chiefs offseason. It was trading away Tyreek Hill and opting for a variety of pass catchers who can show up in big moments in different times when the matchup suits them. It was trading Tyreek Hill and using that, and along with also letting Tyrann Mathieu walk, to reload the defense with younger defenders who might be flying around a little more, maybe not end up in the right space. They did it last night without 3 starters, at least 2.5, depending on how you feel about Mike Dana. But more than anything else, it was the fact that they could just run some power. They were running some gap scheme stuff, too, that was working great. But the offensive line was controlling the line of scrimmage when they ran the football, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco were getting not just gaps. They were getting full-on, corded-off lanes to run through. Patrick Mahomes was able to work with his pocket. It wasn't untouched all day, but whenever there was pressure, he could slide up kind of through that B gap where he sometimes splits between Wiley and Trey Smith. He could float away from Orlando Brown's pressure, and then it was a third down, falling to the ground, little dump miracle to Juju. It's the play to Clyde in the end zone. It's finding Travis Kelce all over the place. It's finally hitting the deep shot with MVS. It's Sky Moore getting involved in the offense again. two tight ends scoring outside of Travis Kelce. The whole toolbox last night got opened, and Patrick Mahomes grabbed the wrench for a couple plays and the screwdriver over here, and then the offensive line just went ahead and cleared off the whole table. They laid out some new paper, started scratching some stuff up. This is what I think this offense looks like in a borderline best-case scenario for the rest of this season and throughout the quote-unquote post-Tyreek Hill era. It's still running through Travis Kelce, but it's finding moments from these other guys. When Mahomes says it's going to be a different guy every week, it's going to be a different guy every play, every drive, and as long as the offense keeps, to use an old word that has a lot of meaning here, if that keeps matriculating the ball down the field, but you're able to matriculate out of the hand of your quarterback, this, I think, is what Andy Reid and Brett Veach and Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes and the whole gang were envisioning whenever they said, okay, what if we do a hard reset of the offense this offseason? What if we trade Tyreek Hill and rebuild? I think this is what they were shooting for.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, one of the takeaways, not yours specifically, but one of the takeaways last night is that, while Patrick Mahomes is spreading the ball around, what it really shows is how selfish he is.
That's right.
In wanting to get he wants to get the credit for no Tyreek Hill. So if he just throws to one guy, then it'd be like, well, they're trying to replace this Baltimore with one guy. Mm-hmm. But if he spreads it around, now he gets more credit, and it's a very selfish act by him to put up all those yards and touchdowns and convert on third downs all the time, because all he's caring about is what he's doing. While, yes, the team is also succeeding, but it really starts with what he wants to do for himself. If the team succeeds, that's just secondary, right? I mean, that's the main takeaway.
It's a great point, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I did neglect to mention how good I thought your letter to the editor was.
Yeah, I wrote another letter, doubling down on it.
Good. I can't wait to see it. Yeah. Maybe that gets printed in ink front page this week. Come on.
This time I'm John in North Dakota. Not Jeff in Ohio or wherever. Let's get to the phone lines. 913-381-0810. Josh, who do we have up?
Let's open up with Travis. No confirmation or denial if it's Travis Kelce or not. But Travis, You're in the zone.
I wish I was Travis Kelce.
We all do.
So, I mean, I thought that they played a really good game last night. I did still think that there were some things that they needed to clean up. The running backs not being able to hit wide open holes, I did feel like was an issue at times. I don't understand how, especially on the goal line, how Clyde just hit the lane was 10 feet wide and he just slammed into the pile, Larry Johnson style. And, I didn't quite understand that. But the offensive line manhandled that defensive line. I mean, like you pointed out, there were times where Trey Smith was body slamming Beta on the ground. The receivers, I felt like, got open. Had time to find them. I don't have a ton to complain about. I mean, that was a complete win last night. So I'm excited going forward. I'm anxious to hear what Chidilla has to say tomorrow night on the podcast, because he's so anti-Chief, it seems like. So I'm anxious to see what he'll find to complain about this time. So. Overall, great win. Thanks for taking the call, guys.
Travis, thank you for the call, man. 913-381-0810. Here's where I think we are with the running backs and Clyde specifically. I'm just accepting the fact that there'll be some wide open lanes that he doesn't see.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, you just have to accept it. It's not going to change. He's played football this long. He's not going to wake up one day and go, wait a minute, I can see clear. I don't think he's going to get LASIK to have vision on the football field. It doesn't happen that way. And, yes, I'm glad he scored, because had he not scored on that play and maybe they don't score a touchdown on that drive, there'd be a whole lot more conversation about the fact that looked like there was a hole that was about 5 feet wide, and instead he decided to make it as difficult as possibly he can to score a touchdown there. I'm just accepting the fact that those are going to happen, that, get what you can, break a tackle here or two, and then, catch the ball out of the backfield. And, it could have been a better throw, but also catch the ball if you're Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because it was just a beautifully designed play and could have been a touchdown. I'm just accepting those things at the running back position. They do not have a perfect running back back there. They've got a guy that, needs to show a little more patience, and he did that last night with Pacheco. And they've got a guy that, is just doesn't have the vision at the line of scrimmage to see where the lanes are opening up at and when to cut back and things like that. It's just moving forward. That's just what they're going to be.
Yeah, you say that you don't have a perfect running back. I think what you meant is they're not currently starting their perfect running back, but, lost in translation. Yeah, I get it.
Yep. Jerick McKinnon, you're right. That is exactly right. Give Jet more. I'm mad at Jet for not keeping that thing and running straight ahead. That thing was wide open. It was a red sea, and he's like, oh, I'll just give it to Clyde. He'll just run through the other hole, non-hole.
That should have been a McKinnon touchdown. You're right. That's true. You should have just kept that.
There.
Yeah.
Very quickly, speaking, since you mentioned Jerick McKinnon.
No rush, Beard. Take your time.
Somebody did ask on the Twitch, talking about Jerick McKinnon's using the goal to go in other short yardage situations. Your thoughts?
He struggled. I think the whole team has struggled in that. But certainly, I think they haven't found a running back, Ronald Jones, that they can give the ball to that I think can, either find the hole that's there and just be a natural runner and have vision of where it's going to open up, or, maybe open one up himself. I think Clyde can do that a little bit. I think Pacheco has shown that as well. Jerick McKinnon's not going to be that guy. Like, he's going to have a hole that's there or be able to have a jump cut or, the vision to see where it's at. And, I'd like to see him get the ball more, but that's just me. But I think they're fine right now. Like, here's the thing. They're not giving the ball to Colby Smith instead of Jamal Charles.
Right.
That's what I'll say. Like, they are not just having somebody who is showing that every time they touch the ball, they're picking up 7-8 yards per carry while handing it off to a guy who's averaging 2.3. We're not seeing that with this Chiefs team. So if they give it to Jerick, if they give it to Pacheco, if they give it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, hopefully it's blocked well. Hopefully they can break a tackle or just stay on schedule and in front of the chains and keep it moving and let Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes on non-second and 10s and third and longs because a run got stopped or stuffed at the line of scrimmage. That, to me, is the run game ultimately. And I think last night it did that.
You want another call, Jason? It feels like that's the rhythm of the show. Storyteller's on hold. What's up, Storyteller?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Hats off to J.J. Watt. I've had my heart chopped 3 times, and only the last time did I ever feel like I could kick someone's butt later in the week.
Have you done it before a football game?
No, sure haven't.
Okay.
This was a great weekend for the local guys and all the college teams, too. And the Colorado job is open. We have someone we know that should be interested in him.
Yeah.
A question for you is Karlaftis. What is the percentage of plays that he drops back?
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's higher than I thought it would be. Let me just say that. It's a higher percentage than I guessed it would be when they drafted him.
I was surprised he did that at the goal line, too.
Yeah. In fact, that L'Jarius Sneed sack fumble, Chris Jones recovery, was George Karlaftis dropping back and guarding, I don't know who it was. It maybe Miller, Scotty Miller? Maybe it was Beasley. I don't know. The white receiver in the slot. And George Karlaftis dropped back with him.
Wes Welker?
It was Julian Edelman. Yeah.
It was Amendola. Sorry about that. I knew we were going to get. It was Lance Long.
Hey.
Lance
Listen,
Long
I know it's spelled different, but it's too soon to be saying that guy's last name around here. Okay, it's only been a week.
My apologies. But Brady pump faked, and I think he pump faked because he wasn't expecting George Karlaftis, the defensive end, to drop back in that spot. And by pump faking, L'Jarius Sneed then sacked him. So he's dropping back more than I thought he would. But at least on that design and scheme, and also L'Jarius Sneed being a brilliant acting, that it worked out with Tom Brady going, oh, I didn't think the defensive end was going to be right there. I need to then pat the ball and wait for Miller to start his route to the outside, and oops, the ball's out. So, I mean, when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it's like, why is Justin Houston guarding Antonio Brown?
Right, that's the thing, and Storyteller, appreciate it. That's the thing with Tom Brady also. getting him to be surprised by something is difficult. So I probably have a little longer leash for dropping a defensive end in coverage in a circumstance like that, where your edges haven't gotten pressure with 4. You're trying to draw something up. So you let Karlaftis drift back into the zone. He's a big dude. He's agile enough to eat up a little bit of space. If Snead's also coming, I don't necessarily want George Karlaftis standing up and playing outside linebacker. But if you're bringing pressure from one spot, you're trying to cover it up with Karlaftis. You could play this clip back to me in Week 14 whenever it cost the Chiefs a game, and I would tell you that I'm eyes wide open right now. But it's okay to do if you're trying to get Tom Brady, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when whoever it was that caught the ball, that Frank Clark was over by him. It might have been Fournette out of the backfield.
Sure.
That Fournette caught the ball, and Frank Clark had dropped into coverage, and Tom Brady hit him, and it was a first down. It's like, okay, you win some, you lose some. But they had a very, very big win on that particular play and scheme and design, and it worked out well because it went into whatever the Bucs were planning on doing. On that play, and it made Tom Brady actually hesitate a little bit, which was all that needed to happen because L'Jarius Sneed is a brilliant blitzer. So yeah, that certainly worked out on that end. Who's up next?
Let's sneak in one more call this break with Rev. Rev, you're on the zone. What's up, Rev?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up, man?
Oh, man, everything's good. I was just wondering. I just had 2 things. When do you think the media's going to put to bed, do we need Tyreek Hill? And then one other thing, do you think these referees are just totally just missing these calls? And I'll listen off there.
Rev, I appreciate the phone call, man. I'm hoping it's after last night. We talked about it a couple of times with Tyreek or whatever the nickname is going to be. I'm hoping that we're done with the single-game referendums. I talked last week that going back and looking at the All-22, I saw open receivers. I saw an offensive line that didn't give Mahomes enough time. I saw a game plan that it looked like the Chiefs wanted to go deep and stretch the field and attack over the top to the Colts, and maybe not this is what we will typically do. So the game plan and calls and things like that, were they great? I don't know. You'd have to be in the film room and be in the coach's room to really understand that. But I didn't think the offensive line played well, but I thought they were open receivers last week. So I didn't think it was a problem of Mahomes is holding the football because everybody's attached to their defender. So I'm hoping last night is the case. And then the referees, I mean, is anything particular or specific? The only thing that I had an issue with, and I get the letter of the law, was, Juan Thornhill and the unnecessary roughness on Mike Evans.
That
in the
was
end
bad.
zone.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Those that are saying letter of the law and the official throwing it, you're assuming Juan Thornhill knows that Mike Evans dropped the football.
Correct.
That it went through his hands. He's wearing a helmet, okay? The helmet does not have a camera on the top of his head like a GoPro where he can see what's going on.
He's coming at a level that would make it even harder to see even through the face mask because he's trying not to hit him in the helmet with his helmet. So he hits him shoulder to side.
Can you imagine if Mike Evans was bringing the ball down and Juan Thornhill just, slid to the side and didn't touch him, and he lands and gets 2 feet in and they score a touchdown? Like, what are you doing, Juan?
Would have been
Trying to
bad.
knock the ball out.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like, he hit him right where the ball was going to be when he brought his hands down. He hit him with the shoulder. He hit Mike Evans' shoulder. But because if Evans catches the ball, that flag is not thrown. If Evans is bringing the ball
totally,
down
absolutely.
and Juan Thornhill hits him, if he jars the ball loose or Mike Evans catches it, that flag is not thrown. He dropped the ball, then Thornhill hit him, and they throw the flag because of that. I just, that's the one that I would complain about, but I don't know if there were other ones that I missed.
Here's my very meager defense on that one and for referees in general. It's one of the reasons I do not extend this one to the Chris Jones flag from last week for reasons that will become evident. We at home have a better view of what the refs are doing than the refs do because we have the benefit of slow motion replay 10 seconds after the play's over, if not less than that. So I have a little bit of empathy for referees who are being shown up by the power of 4K instant replay. But that is not an excuse for the NFL. It's an excuse for the 65-year-old men who are running down the sidelines squinting, trying to see if the ball crossed the plane or not. But the NFL has better technology that we are all seeing in our living rooms. I think we're hopefully maybe we're a couple of years away at most from there being some real advancements on how penalties get called and rules get enforced because this we know the answers at home before the zebras on the field know, and that makes their job pretty much impossible.
So what you're saying is instead of a note card, they're going to use a measuring tape.
Exactly. Just one long measuring, one yardstick actually, so they have to use it 10 times, from
Does it
the
have
nose
that
of the
little
ball.
metal slide piece on one end?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because that you can stomp that into the turf, and so it'll hold itself there, so it'll be really easy to unfurl it that way. Just have somebody stand on one end, roll out the other way, boom, 10 yards.
We've got it all figured out.
Yeah, this is easy.
We are solving this. Why do they have to have all these owners meetings and things like that? It's
These
ridiculous.
cameras and slow-mos. Get a measuring tape and put your hand in the dirt.
Yes, we'll take a timeout. But, as far as the one Thornhill hit, I was surprised to see in a college game over the weekend. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a targeting that was called, and they ended up taking the targeting back because it was like a bang-bang play like that. And the receiver, the ball had went through his hands, and then the safety hit him. And they were like, well, it's a defenseless receiver. And the guys on the broadcast were saying, yeah, it's defenseless, but that safety doesn't know that the ball has already went through his hands. He hits him right after the ball goes through. And, that's you got to give some benefit of the doubt to how fast the game is and what the players are seeing. And they took it off the board. The referees came back and said there was no targeting. I was shocked by that. I thought it was a good call. So I wanted to pass that along. At least there's some learning.
Yep.
At least there's – because a few years ago when the targeting penalty first came on, it was just – there was never one that was taken off the board. It was targeting. You're gone. We can replay it all we want, but we're not going to overturn it. It's just we're gonna err on the side of you're ejected. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling along, hanging out at Blue Hills Country Club. For the Kids, KC.org. Is the golf tournament out here for the kids, FORE, the kids, KC.org. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Dip him in once, flip him over, dip him in again. I don't know.
Oh, a double dip.
I would double dip the baby.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Nine 810 taking your phone calls. We will talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. Our NFL insider from ESPN. We'll hear from Andy Reid as well around 12:30 or so. We got Learn Funniest Best today. 913-381-810. 913-912-4810. Texas, as a KU fan, we had to listen about Roy for about 2 years after he left. That's a good comparison. It's really good. I hope that's not the case because obviously number 10 is not, Roy to KU. It would be like, if Andy Reid then took the North Carolina job, which would be really weird. Then maybe we'd be hearing about it a lot for the oddity of him doing that, and then also not being at with the Chiefs anymore. 913-912-4810. Texas, McKinnon did the right thing on the goal line play. He was supposed to read the defensive end, I assume, who at the time of the handoff was standing right in his path. Kelsey didn't get to him until after the handoff. Look, it was a touchdown. And I know when we watch the replay, and who knows, in the film room they might say, Clyde, great call going to that spot. I have no idea. But it certainly looked like an open lane. And, again, I just think that's going to happen. Another text said, have to say I was amazed to see the speed and toughness of Pacheco last night. Kept his feet churning after initial contact. Was huge in the running game. Yeah, I agree. Credit where credit is due. I had mentioned I hadn't seen the love affair with Pacheco that others had. I saw it last night. I see what people think he could be. And I thought, when the hole was there, he hit it, and he got there with pretty good pace. And when it needed to develop, he didn't just run as fast as he could to whatever gap he was supposed to head into. So 913-381-810, 913-912-4810 to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Tex says, this is a great point on Juan Thornhill. Says, remember when Breland Speaks let go of Brady because he was afraid of a penalty?
I do now.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I also had. Thanks, Texter.
No, I get it. Like, let's not be reminded of that. But I totally forgot about that, letting him go because you didn't want to get a penalty because, it is Tom Brady. And it's part of your point and Lebo's point last week of they should know where the line is. Like, you do need to know where the line is of, talking. And Chris Jones did not have words to say after he picked up the fumble, which was great.
It's really about, what I tweeted at the time also is I just wish Juan Thornhill would have run up next to Mike Evans and just yelled a naughty word at him. And maybe that would have been enough of an impact, for him to drop the ball. Then he wouldn't have had to have hit him so hard. He wouldn't have gotten penalized. It's just, it's really on the Chiefs at this point to figure out where that line is, even though the referees won't tell them.
That's exactly right. Tex says, in regards to the Pacheco, Tex says, please keep Josh off the text line.
You read that text, and I just was kind of sitting here, just kind of nodding along, like, yeah, that'll really tracks. But really, that is the thing. The patience is what we did not see from him in college. Like some of the physical traits, so many running backs out of college have some combination of excellent physical tools that you could talk yourself into them at the next level. That's why you don't draft them too highly. It's why running backs late in the draft are really exciting sometimes. But the foot movement and the patience last night on at least a couple separate occasions legitimately just in real time jumped off the screen. This isn't like scrubbing back through after the fact. One of those runs down the field, he really like slowed up, waited for Andrew Wiley to get his block set, and I think Pacheco literally slapped Andrew Wiley. I'm not 100% sure. I've not seen that there is contact, but he was waiting to, if nothing else, ran right off the butt of Andrew Wiley. And then in another spot, I think it was later in the game than that, whenever he's running off, I believe, the right side, he just kind of chops his feet a little bit, keeps going, comes to a little bit of a pause before letting the block set up. I think Tooney came around and pulled and sealed on the right side. And then this is, there's a way to measure this, with some next-gen stats or whatever, but from the eyeball test, I'm going to tell you, it looked special to me that he got there, hovered in place, kept his feet moving, and then resumed with the explosiveness of a guy who had been running at full speed for a couple yards. That explosiveness out of the little chop step, just keep your feet moving, that's something that adds to the violence whenever somebody comes in and tries to hit you with an arm tackle. You're not going to bring somebody down who has that explosiveness as if they're at full speed. And if you are threatening that for a defense, your top speed is going to be higher and hit much sooner. So I have been on board the long-term Isaiah Pacheco hype train since the draft. I am on the let's keep giving this dude some more work hype train now more than ever because of some of the specific traits we saw from him. Running back production is obviously very dependent on the offensive line all the time. Go ask Najee Harris. Ask him how that has worked for him as a hostage in Pittsburgh. But when it was there, Pacheco took it, and when it wasn't there, Pacheco waited for it, and that was very impressive to me.
I do want to point out, too, that, I was disappointed last week that Ronald Jones was sick.
Yeah.
But I'm actually glad that Ronald Jones did not play this weekend, and here's why. If Ronald Jones had played and got the bulk of carries and did exactly what Clyde Edwards-Helaire did, wouldn't we say Ronald Jones is the guy you got to give it to every time? It's got to be right. You've got to have – he's the difference. Enough with Edwards-Helaire. Give the ball to Rojo, and you got to figure out some pass protection issues, certainly. You don't want to be too predictable when he's on the field and you're not going to pass the ball. But the man is the difference in the running game. He didn't play, and they had a phenomenal game where the running backs did what they did, and they picked up a ton of yards on the ground. And so it's not just it was all about Ronald Jones. It was about the offensive line getting back to kicking ass. It was about the offensive line doing what they were doing. And I think the running backs played better than they did last week, too.
Yes.
I think they were they played at a better pace. And Tex says, with this kicker last week, we win. Hats off to him. He was dead center on every kick. He was. It was right down the middle every time. I did not have once the PAT on the first drive was right down the middle, I'm like, okay. Although Amendola, whoever.
Voldemort for real now. Actual Voldemort. He deserves it more than Tyreek Hill, unfortunately.
That's right. Against the Chargers, he was fine. I was like, they helped. They won the game because he made his kicks against the Chargers. And also, it's how crazy the NFL is. Because I do believe the Chiefs got refocused and humbled, and maybe they would have done it anyway. But I think there was an extra little chip. There was an extra little push from the Colts loss to the Bucs game. That if they just go out and play the regular game and beat the Bucs or beat the Colts by like 10, 12 points, do they show up last night with that same intensity, that same bleep you, that same we're getting our season back on track mentality? And feel to the game last night. I don't know. I have no idea what they would look like, but I know the loss to the Colts really stuck with them and clearly bothered them. And Andy Reid even said it, the night before when he said, the way you guys are prepared this week, you're going to go out and play good football. And they went out there and they did that, and then they talked about it after, about what last week was like. I think that helped in looking as good as they did in the game last night. I hope that Colts loss doesn't come back to haunt them. But in a different world, maybe they beat the Colts and lose to the Bucs. and they're sitting 3-1 right now in the exact same spot, only a different loss to an NFC team that wouldn't affect them in the tiebreaker as opposed to a loss to an AFC team. Who knows from that standpoint? But we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Field Yates coming up at noon. Andy Reid in the noon hour as well. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
It would have been just killed a spider that was crawling on the table here. Take that, spider. Huh? Yeah. In your face. Punk.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, hanging out at Blue Hills Country Club for thekidskc.org, F-O-R-E, thekidskc.org. They do amazing work in donating to Children's Mercy Anxiety and Depression Clinic. That is going to be state-of-the-art here in Kansas City, and literally millions of dollars that they have donated and given to Children's Mercy to help combat anxiety and depression in kids, teenagers, children, and to try to eliminate teen suicide. F-O-R-E, thekidskc.org. You can go there, see how you can donate, give back. Also, the dinner going on tonight, you can still purchase tickets for that. Bill Self in attendance, along with a number of other KU Jayhawk players will be there, and the auction going on as well with some cool stuff. So, F-O-R-E, thekidskc.org, for thekidskc.org. We will talk with Field Yates coming up next, then hear from Andy Reid. More in the Zone on a Monday.
For those who believe some of the...
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is a guy through the first 3 quarters of the game had a quarterback rating of, oh, now I lost that.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We had up until 2 o'clock. Victory Monday for the Chiefs, getting the win 41-31 over the Bucs. We are hanging out at Blue Hills Country Club. forthekids.org, F-O-R-E, thekids.org, forthekidskc.org, F-O-R-E, thekids.kc.org is the website you can go to and check out and see how you can help, give back, donate, and the millions and millions of dollars that they have given to Children's Mercy in developing the anxiety and depression clinic there at Children's Mercy to try to eliminate teen suicide, a very serious subject, an unthinkable subject, and they are doing what they can to try to eliminate that from any families to have to go through that. So we are hanging out here in support of that as well, F-O-R-E, thekids.kc.org. We've also been talking about this Chiefs victory last night, and sitting 3-1 on the season are the Chiefs. Joining us now, our NFL insider from ESPN to break down the Chiefs and the Bucs big win for KC. It is Field Yates joining us here in the Zone. Field, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
Well, first of all, that was more like it, right? I mean, last night, that was yes. The team that we were accustomed to seeing. Very Chiefs-like performance last night. I know that the score made you think maybe it was a fairly close game, but if it's possible that a 10-point victory is not reflective of a dominant effort, I think last night was a testimony to it.
We've talked a lot about Patrick Mahomes and the offense, but you said something there that sparked something in my mind. Is it possible that giving up 31 points is not indicative of maybe a defensive performance?
I don't think it was because I understand, to be honest with you, like, I don't know if a game that was, as I suppose, closely contested as 41-31 suggests could ever be this way, but it felt to me like that game was over about 90 seconds into the actual game because the fumbled opening kickoff turned into a quick strike touchdown to Travis Kelce. It took the life out of the Bucs, and I know that they ended up battling back a little bit in the second half, but I thought a pretty solid defensive effort from the Chiefs on the whole, even with 31 points allowed. I mean, you're facing off against Tom Brady, and he actually had his receivers largely healthy for the first time all season. I don't think yesterday was a performance the Chiefs defense should feel bad about, even if 31 points feels like a lot. I think that was actually a relatively solid effort, all things considered.
Yeah, I had pointed out the stat that our friend Craig Stout from KC Sports Network tweeted out last night that the Chiefs defense gave up a field goal in the game when the Bucs were within 3 scores. That was it. When the game was within 3 scores, they gave up a field goal. I mean, that's kind of indicative of how that game went. And I wonder, Field, like, do you think Spags has the same play calls, game plan the rest of the game or for the bulk of the game as he did last night if it was more of a back-and-forth offensive struggle that the Chiefs weren't doing what they could offensively and it wasn't about, hey, how do we continue to protect this multi-score lead? And that is, well, we can't give up big plays. If they have to drive the length of the field and score, then that's fine. But our offense is going to come out here and score, and they're not going to have enough possessions left as long as we don't give up big plays. I don't know if there was an adjustment like that or last night's game plan would have been the exact same, but I wonder how much Steve Spagnuolo may have adjusted things and said, I see how this game is going, and we're not giving up big plays to Mike Evans and Godwin and whoever else. We're going to make them drive. It's
a great point. And we, all of us, even coaches themselves are guilty of this from time to time, where we fall back on per-game averages because they are useful in a lot of ways, right? I mean, over the course of the season, if you're putting up 30 points per game, it suggests you're a very good offense. If you're only allowing 10 points per game, it suggests that you're a very good defense. But there are situations where you have to dig a little bit deeper beyond the box score. And I think that what you're describing right now is exactly it, is within the course of the game last night, I don't think the Chiefs defense did a whole lot that is, unexcusable or inexplicable, right? Like, circumstantially, they had a certain way in which they were able to play, and it felt like they played that at a high level. So there are probably other days where you can lament defensive issues, but they haven't been the past 2 Mondays. As I thought the Chiefs gave basically everything they could last Sunday, even in a loss against Indianapolis. And then last night I thought that it was hearty. It was a solid defensive effort, even on a night when Tom Brady has his best night of the year statistically and looked a little bit more like Tom Brady.
Yeah, and you know what? The per-game averages and sort of game flow dictates some of these things as well, that if you look at the per-game averages with the Chiefs' run defense, last night is going to do a lot to boost how good the Chiefs' defense is.
Yeah.
They gave up 3 rushing
yards. 65. Yeah, I think the Chiefs are now up to 65 yards per game allowed, which coming into last night, I can do some math here. I believe, if I have this correct, it was at like 90 yards per game or 95 yards per game allowed going into last night. It was down to 65 now because of what you said, whatever it was, 3 yards or 6 yards total, which I can't imagine there'd be too many games in NFL history where a team runs for just 6 yards, even in this happy league that we play in right now.
Yeah, last night our friend Kent said, hey, you reading this tweet, you had more rushing yards than Leonard Fournette did tonight. I'm like, oh, that's right.
Isn't it just amazing? You know, hey, look, you know how much fantasy work I do at ESPN.
I know, yeah.
And there are days in which you think to yourself, how in the hell am I supposed to size any of this stuff up? How are you supposed to predict this stuff, right? Who could predict that I would have had more rushing yards than Leonard Fournette last night? To your point, this is what makes this stuff just wonky as all get out. Now, it's still fun, and we love it, and we'll never get rid of it. But I tell you what, man, I'm not trying to take myself off the hook, but there are some days where I say to myself, that wasn't a bad call by me. That was just illogical things taking place on a football field.
Well, I mean, I'm going to end up losing my fantasy week this week, which people really care about. They want to hear it, and it's because I benched Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Khalil Herbert. And it was I have Javonte Williams. I like the matchup with the Raiders, and Edwards-Helaire with Pacheco and McKinnon, and the Bucs are a good run defense. I'm like, the matchup isn't great, and I think Herbert has a great matchup. This is an opportunity for me to play him. I'm going to play him here with Williams. And then, of course, Williams does what happened with him, which looks like it could be pretty bad. Herbert was okay, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes and has 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm like, well, you know what? But I don't feel dumb for making the decision. It's just fantasy football. Sometimes it works out like that.
100%. I'm just here to tell you that's exactly how things work out on occasion. There's nothing you could have done differently. As a matter of fact, your process was relatively sound right there, right? I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now is breaking fantasy football models. He continues to score touchdowns at an astronomical rate. By the way, as we know, during his career up to this point, one of the issues was he seemingly never scored touchdowns. The Chiefs' rushing attack is better this year than it has been in the past couple of years. All this stuff makes no sense. CEH keeps, as I said, agonizing fantasy analysts left and right, but if you're starting him, then you continue to be very happy. And I think at this point, even though the numbers will eventually tail off, you would think, just because, it's almost like the laws of regression gravity tell us that things are going to eventually level off. I think what CEH has become is one of those players, and this is a lot of fantasy football in my opinion. I know people who are out there right now that know numbers would say, hold on, you got to be a bit more process-driven. And 95% of what I do is process-driven in fantasy football. But there are occasions where guys are doing things that just seem like there's no way they can keep up, and they continue to keep up. So you just keep playing that player. And if he proves you wrong, well, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I, at this point, would rather to continue playing CEH and hope that somehow he keeps finding the end zone than bench CEH and wait for the game in which he only has 7 carries for 30 yards with no catches and get you just 3 fantasy points. Just keep playing him. Let the good times roll right now.
Yep, I'm going to. Field Yates is our guest from ESPN NFL Insider. So one of the things that I think is the takeaway from this game, and it goes along with last week's game against the Colts, I started off the show and talking about all the things that the Chiefs did and the performance and all of that stuff, but then got into I'm hoping last night, especially given last week's conversation field, can maybe put to rest the week-by-week one-game referendum on the Chiefs' offense with and without Tyreek Hill of the Cardinals. They're fine. They're fine. See, this is what they imagined. Colts. See, you don't have Tyreek Hill. This Chiefs offense is going to struggle. Bucs, well, you know what? They didn't need Tyreek Hill because this offense, they're just going to spread it around. I just don't want to go through 17 weeks of each individual game being about whether or not the Chiefs offense can survive and if the the concept of building the offense this way was right or wrong each and every game. I started off today's show, or one of the things I talked about in today's Open was I'm hoping after last night we can sort of just move on and talk about this Chiefs offense and what it is right now, regardless of who is or is not playing for the Chiefs.
Yeah, the problem with football is that when you're making those kind of arguments is that they end up being the kind of arguments that you can win or lose any given Sunday. What I mean by that is let's fast forward to the playoffs, right? And let's just say that the Chiefs in the third round of the playoffs, the conference championship, they lose a game to the Bills in which the Chiefs wide receivers combined for 112 receiving yards and Stephon Diggs has 145 on his own, right? Well, then you know what the takeaway is going to be the next day, regardless of how good the coverage was or was not on Stephon Diggs, regardless of how good the protection of Patrick Mahomes was or was not on that day. It's going to be all about the fact that Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster and, Mecole Hardman combined for X number of yards. Hold on now. If you play a 7-game series, my guess is the Chiefs' wide receiving core is not going to be the issue for them if they lose 4 out of those 7 games, right? But conversely, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and Juju Smith-Schuster gets hot and has 20 catches in the postseason, you can say, hey, you can do it, right? You can do strength in numbers over, one star in Tyreek Hill and a bunch of complementary pieces. It works that way as well. So football is a beautiful game that we love to analyze back and forth, but I think we even recognize that some of these arguments are difficult to make simply based off sample size. Like, it's just hard to size things up when you've got 17 opportunities to examine them.
Field Yates is our guest from ESPN NFL Insider. The Chiefs are playing the Raiders this week on Monday night, and so it's another in-division game like they had against the Chargers a couple of weeks ago. The last few weeks have been really interesting with the other teams in the West, with the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. The Broncos have found ways to win. The Raiders have found ways to lose. And then yesterday they beat the Broncos. The Chargers made it a little more interesting against the Texans. But what's sort of interesting to me, and Travis Kelce talked about after the Colts game, saying, it's about how you're playing at the end of the year. You got to be playing good football. We got to get back to playing good football. And then, health and attrition throughout the year, all of those things matter. And I'm looking at the AFC West now, Field, and I'm going, Denver already lost Tim Patrick. It looks like they've lost Javonte Williams for the season. Randy Gregory is also – is he out for the season? Okay, I hadn't seen the latest with that one.
Tore his ACL, yep.
Randy Gregory is also having an MRI, and they're looking at him as well. The Chargers with Bosa that's going to be out for a couple of months, and Allen's been injured, and Slater's gone for the year, and they've got issues with Jackson's foot and Lindsley, and it's just how the attrition can change so much. And I don't know what the view is moving forward of the AFC West, but it's not to then dismiss the other 3 opponents because they have good players, but the road looks a little bit easier for the Chiefs. Health certainly matters, but those are significant players that are dropping from these teams that are playoff caliber teams, or even potentially division winning teams that you just can't suffer too many of those, or it just sort of ends your season and chances of doing that. That's what it feels like with 2 of the other 3 teams.
Yeah, and it certainly feels like the injuries have most dramatically hit the Chargers just because we don't know the status for sure on Randy Gregory. We'll see. It doesn't sound great for Denver, but still, until we have clarity there, a little bit different than losing both Rashawn Slater for the entire year and Joey Bosa for 8 to 10 weeks. They've already been without Keenan Allen. Justin Herbert's dealing with the rib injury, which seemed to be in a lot better shape yesterday. He played much better against the Texans, even in a game that got weirdly close in the second half. But here's what I would say, is that through 4 games, each team has now played 4 games, of course. There's only one team that's put it together wire to wire on multiple occasions where you've said to yourself, all right, their best is A, better than almost every other team's best, and B, and this is more important, something that we can expect to actually happen. The Broncos are 2-2. They won one game 11-10 against the San Francisco 49ers last Sunday night, right? Nothing about what Denver has done so far has come easy. And wasn't the formula supposed to be that all they were missing was the key to unlock everything, and they finally found the key? In this case, they traded for it in Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a good player, there's no doubt about it. But has anybody sat there and watched Russ this season and thought to themselves, all right, we're talking about a Mahomes, an Allen, a Lamar. No, the answer is they haven't, and maybe that'll happen in due time. But Russell Wilson made it seem like the issue was Seattle, and it seemed like the offensive coaching staff and Pete Carroll were holding him back. And he goes to Denver, and everything's hunky-dory, and I read 9 profiles about Nathaniel Hackett this offseason and how everything's going to be just fine. They're going to explode. A lot of season left, but I've yet to see that explosion, and maybe I'm missing something, but they better get going in a hurry because it's unacceptable and to play this kind of offense so far. And the schedule, it's not going to be easy. I know the AFC may not look quite as dominant as we thought it would coming into the season, but it's also not going to be any cake or too many cakewalk games for the Broncos.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and as you said, Javonte Williams is out for the year, and that's a guy who's certainly a pretty darn good player, and now it's going to be Melvin Gordon and Boone. Last one for you, Field Yates is our guest. What do you think of the Raiders? They win their first game, but a ball bounces a different way a few times. They, in theory, could be 4-0 right now. So this Raiders team that's had some close losses, and they beat the Broncos. How good are they? And they at least tried and started to get their season back on track yesterday.
Yeah, and, last year the Raiders won an absurd amount of really close games.
That's right.
I believe if you go back and look at the data, they were the best team in the second half of the season, maybe the entire season, in that close game echelon, however you want to define. I know in the NBA we define clutch time, and I think like plus or minus 5 points under 5 minutes to go. Right? Like in the NFL, 1-score games is probably the same metric, and the Raiders were super lucky. That's one of those things that no matter how good you are, like luck just suggests it's going to even out over time, right? The Bills were on the opposite end of the spectrum. I think we all agree the Bills are an excellent football team. They got back on track yesterday with a 1-score win for the first time in a long time. And I think that the Raiders are fine. They're solid, but an offense that was supposed to be dominant has not been there as well. So 2 offenses that we thought would be great, maybe challenge Kansas City for the best in the division, certainly don't look anything like that through the first 4 weeks of the season. But the Raiders, I don't know if that hole was too big at 0-3 to dig themselves out of, but I also know that they're too talented to expect them to just roll over and quit because there is a lot of blue-chip talent on both sides of the ball.
Visiting with Field Yates from ESPN. It's a week away, and it's only a Monday, but do you have a score in mind if you're throwing a dart for Chiefs and Raiders next Monday night?
God,
actually, you know what, Field? You know what?
You want to do it next Monday?
I'll ask you next Monday. How about that? I'll ask. That'll be a better prediction next Monday. So I'll ask you next Monday that question. All right?
Awesome. Looking forward to it already.
All right. Field, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. It's a Monday night game. We talk to Field on Mondays. I'll just ask him next week. Yeah. Field, let's get it right now and then again on Monday. So, that Chiefs-Raiders game, I felt like they were going to beat the Broncos, and they end up doing that, but we'll find out. Yeah, they won so many close games last year, and that was kind of the conversation as to why people thought they would take a step back even after bringing in more talent. That they would not be as good as they were a year ago, at least in wins, is because those close games start to even out. You win a bunch of close games, you probably lose a bunch of close games. And they started out this year with 3 straight losses by 1 score after last year finishing the season at like 6-1 or something in 1-score games, especially down the stretch when they had to win all of those games. They ended up doing that. They were also 3-1 against backup quarterbacks last year, too. So those things start to even out. The Chiefs and Raiders coming up. But as far as the AFC West is concerned, that news that was there that came out, I guess, just before we talked to Field. But Javonte Williams is out for the year, and it's not just a knee injury, Josh. It looks like it's a significant knee injury for Javonte Williams. That may be a longer road back rather than just he tore his ACL. That sucks. Come September next year, he's going to be there as a starting running back for the Broncos.
Yeah, it's a torn ACL, torn LCL, and a posterior lateral corner. according to Ian Rappaport. Posterior lateral corner. I don't know what that one is. I know torn ACL, torn MCL, not good. So yeah, it could be a while for Javonte Williams. A really major loss for the Broncos, as arguably, I don't know, Jerry Jeudy probably has his case. Their pass catchers are pretty good, but one of their legitimate weapons for an offense that has had an issue being high octane enough, and now it's all Melvin Gordon, who keeps fumbling in big situations, and Javonte Williams is just a legit fun, exciting young player, and any sort of injury that goes 2 or 3 lines deep into a knee is just devastating.
And also, it was yesterday was the game that people had thought, okay, are they going to start to give more of the lion's share to Javonte Williams? It's not going to be this 50-50 split.
Yep.
And they were doing that in the game. They had shown that, okay, this is going to be the starting to shift to less Melvin Gordon, more Javonte Williams, and that's the game in which he tears his ACL. And there's a reason they were going more towards him. It's not that they were saying, Javonte and Melvin Gordon, we don't know, 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. We're fine with whoever. No, it had been one of those, we want to keep him fresh all year, yada, yada, yada. Let's draft Javonte Williams so we can have a running back by committee with he and Melvin Gordon. But he's the better running back, and Melvin Gordon fumbles, and they didn't go with Melvin Gordon even when Javonte Williams went down. They went with Boone. I can't remember his first name.
Aaron, I think?
Daniel. They went with Daniel Boone in that game, and I think that's pretty indicative of Nathaniel Hackett and what they think of Melvin Gordon in that game against the Raiders, in which they were coming back and they were making that a game and they had a chance to win. Melvin Gordon was standing on the sideline holding his helmet, and Javonte Williams was back in the locker room having his knee checked out, and a guy that people didn't know is out there playing for the Broncos.
American pioneer Daniel Boone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said Aaron. I said Aaron, but we were doing a bit.
Okay.
We don't know the.
I didn't
we
know
don't know the real Boone's last name.
That bit, and I thought he was actually saying that. So I was like, really?
No, Daniel Boone is a.
Oh, it's Brett Boone.
See,
Okay,
we have lots of.
Sorry, Bob.
We have lots of options. Is there any other Boone? Can we make this any other? I don't know, Beards. You find me another famous Boone. In the meantime,
Pickens.
Can I interest you?
It's a Boone Pickens.
That's right. Yeah.
from the grave.
I'd like to offer you a Melvin Gordon stat here from Adam Schefter. Melvin Gordon
has fumble again?
He has fumbled 5 times in his past 44 carries over 5 games, but that's not even the real bold part of this tweet. Sunday marked the 3rd time a Gordon fumble has been returned for a touchdown in Denver's past 12 games.
Wow.
Now, one of those we remember quite well, the combination of Nick Bolton and Melvin Ingram, who I almost called Melvin Gordon just then, even. That was a fumble house call. It's happened 2 more times over these last 12 games, and then 5 fumbles in 44 carries. For not a rookie like pass catcher gadget guy by any means. Veteran who's forgotten how to hold on to the football. Very strange and a very big loss for Denver.
Mike Boone, this is his 6th year in the NFL. Could have surprised. I mean, I would have lost
Hey,
that
Mike
bet.
Boone. I feel like I've heard that name before. Maybe yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, as of yesterday when Javonte Williams went down and I was watching the Broncos and Raiders game. Mike Boone, this is his 6th year in the NFL, played 3 with Minnesota. This is actually his 3rd year with the Broncos. So there you go. Also looking here, noticing that he has literally never fumbled in his career yet. So maybe that's why they went with him over Melvin Gordon. Is they're saying, you know what, running backs can be interchangeable. Don't drop the ball, Melvin. Oh, sorry, I dropped the ball. Okay, have a seat, sir. So it might be more Mike Boone than Melvin Gordon. But also, Randy Gregory. They're still looking at – I haven't seen any news on him. And he had one of those – he was coming around the edge, his right leg planted, and he immediately jumped up and held his knee and then went down. That was the last we saw. And then he went to the locker room. He had an MRI today as well. I haven't seen anything on Randy Gregory. If the Broncos lose Javonte Williams and Randy Gregory in the same game that they lose to the Raiders – that's as devastating of a day as you get in the National Football League, and kind of like when, Bosa and Slater leave for the Chargers in the same game that we saw, last Sunday. So, boy, attrition in the AFC West is starting to take over.
Very much so. And if they do have to rely on Daniel Boone, I just don't know if head coach Davey Crockett's going to be able to do anything about that.
Andy Reid next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Red Red Monday is brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System. If you have a strain, sprain, fracture, or sport-related concussion, the University of Kansas Health System has a Saturday morning walk-in clinic at I-435 in Null. For more information, go to kansashealthsystem.com/sportsmedicine. Red Monday is brought to you by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
The wait is over, Kansas. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Not much of a break yesterday, Herbie, unless you're counting lunch. I had lunch. That was good, right?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We got Learn Funniest Best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Let's hear from Andy Reid as meeting with the media today. They will be off from media press conferences tomorrow and Wednesday, and then they'll pick it back up on Thursday as a different week this week because they got Monday Night Football. But here is Andy Reid opening up his Zoom press conference after beating Tampa last night.
All right, so I don't have any injuries, not that we had a bunch of them anyways, but to give you, the guys are just starting to come in. We didn't get back here till late, like I'm sure you guys did. So, listen, I felt the same way as I did last night. I thought all three phases contributed to the win. It was, it was a good game for that. And normally, if you can get all three going, then you're going to have some success. Like I said yesterday, I mean that or last night, it's a tough state in the of affairs in the state of Florida right now. I mean, people are scrambling not only for their lives, but for just getting their homes right. So there's a lot of distractions that were taking place for Todd and his football team. But I was proud of our guys going in and taking care of business. I thought that was important, and the guys did that. I thought, between EB and Spags and Dave Tobe, they had great plans set up, and everybody, executed the best of their ability. There's still plenty that we can learn from this thing. So, but with that, the players have a couple days off because we're playing Monday night, and they'll get back in here and start grinding for the Raiders, who had a big win also. So, we'll have our work cut out as we go forward here. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
Let's go first to Herbie Teope. Go ahead, Herbie.
Some in-house matters. Blake Bell is eligible to come off of injured reserve this week. What are you hoping to see out of him, and how close is he to returning to the active roster?
Yeah, I'll get with Rick here later and just see where we're at with that, Herbie. The guys, like I said, the guys are just kind of working their way in here right now. So, and then Brett Veach will be involved with that too, just strategically how we do that and what we do there.
That can get off IR, and they might be getting some help back soon with the defense as well. And so hopefully that is the case. Hopefully the IR stint was as long as it needed to be for a guy like Trent McDuffie. Things like that, and then as he'll get ready for the Bills, next week? So it'd be the Bills after the Raiders. So one more game for McDuffie, get a little help back there, get by the Raiders, and then start to get a little bit healthier. Knock on wood, continue to have the health that unlike some of the teams that we've been talking about. So we'll see with Blake Bell. But I mean, when you got Noah Gray doing what he did last night, I mean, who really needs a Blake Bell? I mean, you can just do that with the acting of Mahomes. It's all good. Andy Reid continued and says that it's hard to put some of the things Patrick Mahomes does into historical context.
I talked to the guys, but just like I mentioned last night, just don't take it for granted. I mean, that's not – these things are they're special, some of these things we're seeing from him. And so appreciate them, but it's unique. So enjoy every one of them, but it's not something that a lot of people have the advantage, that advantage of being a part of. So with that, I mean, that throw was incredible. The throw to Kelsey is the one that might get looked over a little bit down the middle of the field. I mean, that throw and that catch were ridiculous. And there were a couple other ones in there that were really good. I mean, the one naked play where he kind of hung on to it on third down and threw it up to Juju. I mean, that was another good one. So, listen, I mean, he had a very good game, and I know the stats show that, and some of the things he's done historically, have made history and will continue to do that. But the best thing about him is he's always trying to get better, and that's what I appreciate the most, Pete. I mean, he's not sitting there, patting himself on the back. He keeps moving forward and wanting to get even better.
Hey, Andy, you've mixed up your running backs in games and from week to week in a way that I can't remember you really doing since you've been here, except maybe when you've absolutely had to because of injuries. So I'm just wondering, what are you using from week to week and within games to kind of pick and choose who the right guy is for what situation?
We're getting to know number 10. I mean, he's growing right before our eyes. So we've spotted him in periodically just to give him some experience and to see how he handled it. But we know Clyde is good. One can play. I mean, these guys are they're all good. They're all talented, and so Greg does a good job of trying to work them in certain spots. But it's more of a learning experience with 10, and the more you see, the more you utilize him and Clyde on the first downs and one on the third downs. I mean, he does such a good job there. So, I mean, that's kind of where we were last night. I think that was pretty obvious.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned Pacheco. What have you learned? You're saying you getting to know him. What have you learned about him, say, since the regular season started?
Yeah. So in camp, we saw, just like you did, we saw hard runner. Didn't necessarily, he was a hard runner. He didn't necessarily have the feel for the play. He was going to just run. Every week he's gotten a little bit better at understanding the play and then running hard, setting up, then running hard and finishing it. And then learning the pass game, and then most of all, learn the protections on top of all that. He's gotten better at all those things. And I would anticipate every week, he'll do even better. You saw he had a nice blitz pickup during the game, and so that's progress. That's a good thing.
It feels like learning on both ends, learning Pacheco, what kind of player he is for the Chiefs standpoint, and Pacheco learning about the scheme, what he's looking for, the way he's supposed to react to certain blocks, setting them up, being patient, and then, the explosion after that. And Andy Reid saying just that feel that, at times he was just running, and now a better feel has to improve and continue to get with the pass plays and certainly the protection. But it kind of feels like it's, as the weeks go along, he's going to be integrated more and more if he gets a better feel for it and they get a better feel of how to use them, that this is going to be a true committee as this season progresses, that it may not be, 70-30 Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Pacheco/McKinnon. It could be closer to 50-50 with those guys if Pacheco continues to improve. So, and it's exciting if this is just the beginning of what he's looking like and just the beginning of learning and getting the feel for the offensive line, then what can he do as he continues to improve? So that's certainly encouraging from what the Chiefs are seeing from number 10 and mixing in those different running backs and the running backs by committee. And Andy Reid has done that in the past. Like, he's had guys that are, group running backs in the playoffs. That's not what we've seen. In the playoffs, he sticks with one guy. Well, here's the running back.
And part of all of that, I think, is just who you trust and who you trust scaling for the moment. And that might be, I don't know if it's the biggest thing, but it's something that I think we at least need to make sure is noted around Pacheco, where clearly they trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even as he's, had some moments. That drop that we mentioned earlier last night was a huge one. You just can't have that. But it's trust in pass protection, where they do trust Jerick McKinnon. It's trust in early down situations where you have a little wiggle room, but you don't want to be put behind the sticks. I think Pacheco, I kind of went through and scrolled through earlier. I think maybe the majority of his carries came on first down, and I'm waiting for the snap charts to come out that have like the down and distance and all of that, because I want to know more situationally how Pacheco was used. But they're working him in a way that is not only in the end of a blowout at this point, right? Like, they are trying to really work him into the flow of the offense, and early on, no less. So that to me is just a great barometer of how the Chiefs have learned to trust Pacheco, and as Andy Reid says there, Pacheco is now getting more and more comfortable on the field with them. I just think that's a tremendous sign.
And he's different. It's not like you got a couple of
yes.
running backs that are the same. Like, he's a different pace and a different style. He's got some power, but he's going to be quicker to the hole as well than Clyde Edwards-Helaire is. So, when you're the Titans, you've got a great running back like Derrick Henry, but it's that one note. It's Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry. Now, having Derrick Henry certainly has its advantages. The Chiefs do not have that. So they have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they have Pacheco, at least though, and McKinnon, and they have guys that are different in the fact that, if Pacheco doesn't run like Edwards-Helaire, Edwards-Helaire doesn't run like Pacheco. So that's good if you're going to be working different guys in from that standpoint. Andy Reid was asked how, generally speaking, the league's concussion protocols are working.
I'm not claiming to be a doctor at all. So, but I know the league and the doctors have spent so much time on this, trying to figure it out and make it right. And so I think it's an ongoing deal, and we keep learning, and that's the most important thing, that we don't just put walls up and say this is the way it's going to be, but that they're willing to work with it, and they're doing that. We're finding things out as we go, and likewise the players are. It's open communication. Well, I'm not sure it's always. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm not sure it's always been that way. But it's open communication and amongst the parties there. So if that can, if we keep that up, we'll kind of figure this thing out here as we go.
The way L'Jarius has played and just his maturation being that prominent nickel cornerback, what has given, I guess, you guys the confidence to maybe give him more of the ability to blitz, and also just what you've seen from him in coverage so far?
Yeah. Well, he's a good cover guy. He's always right there and tight on it. And we give him, he's got a big responsibility. And that's not an easy position to play, where you have all these options that you gotta work out with the other safeties and with the linebackers. So it's not always just man-to-man coverage. And he handles all that very well. At the same time, he goes out and he's equally as good out at the corner spot. So that's also a plus. And he does it every day. I mean, he goes out and he works at this thing every day. He's also tough. You've got to have a little bit of linebacker in you, a little bit of safety, a little bit of corner when you get into that nickel spot. And he's got that, and he has the field for space, and he also can cover you man.
It's been impressive what he's been able to do, and last night was a really impressive game for Snead. The sack that happened, the strip fumble, but he had a number of other plays, whether it's tackles, and then, of course, after the touchdown to Mike Evans, where I thought Watson was in good position, but Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and Brady put it in a great spot as well. Then the next time down there, they went one-on-one with Snead and Evans, and I think it was Chris Collinsworth that said Steve Spagnuolo was almost daring the Bucs to go and throw it to Mike Evans again, and they did. And Snead was on him this time, and Snead played it perfectly, and that is not easy to do for someone that, as Andy Reid was talking about, does so many different things. If Snead was just a guy that said, okay, you're going to play right cornerback, and you're going to play outside, and that's what you do, and those are the things he works on every single day, and going up against guys one-on-one in the end zone and fade routes and bigger receivers like Mike Evans, then you go, yeah, he did his job. And is it impressive? Is it not impressive? Yeah, against Mike Evans it's going to be impressive. But it adds to it when the Chiefs can go, we're going to put L'Jarius Snead in the slot. Okay, we're going to put him back, and he's going to be playing more of a safety. He's going to blitz on this one. Okay, he's going to slide over and cover this guy. Oh, by the way, one-on-one at the 1-yard line, we'll put him on Mike Evans, and we'll dare the Bucs to throw to him. Like, it's just so versatile and such a great player that, you could argue he's the team's defensive MVP through the first 4 games of the season.
He's a special player for all of the things that he can do, the versatility, the diversity of his skill set, and the different ways that he's used is just both a testament to how Steve Spagnuolo has identified him either once he got in the building or pre-draft. I don't know how far he was involved, but the coaching staff's implementation of his skill set and the scouting crew getting him in the building, one of the shining jewels in the crown of that entire operation over these last few years.
Andy Reid continued talking about the offensive line, saying that they really responded to the challenge against the Bucs.
Yeah, so look, I don't think it's a secret, but we didn't do as well as we wanted to there against the Colts. I mean, it wasn't the way that I wanted it. I didn't handle it with the play calling the way I wanted it done. And EB and I went through and talked about it, and everybody needed to raise their game, the both of us and the rest of the guys. And so, the challenge was out there for all of us to step up, but it always starts up front. It always starts with the big guys. And so, they inevitably they don't say much, but they want that responsibility. And we need to pick our game up, and so they did a nice job last night. There's plenty of room for improvement. But last night they did a nice job. They came out with a purpose and a certain intensity level, and their assignments were pretty sound there.
Yeah, and a little bit on the lighter side, Coach. Don't see you in many commercials, but you're getting a lot of big reviews for that State Farm spot. What kind of led to that? What led to the decision to do that?
Well, listen, Pat asked me if I would do it with him, and I'm not. I told him I'm not very good at that stuff, as you guys know, doing these things. But listen, it was a fun thing. It was good to see how people treat Pat. It was interesting for me to see how that production goes. He does a lot of these things, and it kind of gave me the inside scoop on it, literally, to be able to see what he has to go through to put all these together. And it's quite interesting. Great people involved there. I mean, they obviously reached out and talked to me about it, and knowing that I wasn't real comfortable doing those kind of things, but they made it as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, so don't fall asleep near Andy Reid. Is that what we learned also from the week? I hope that wasn't somebody's learned funniest best from the weekend coming up in the next hour. If it was, my apologies to either you or Beards, Josh. But I thought it was a really good commercial. I thought it was pretty funny. I was surprised to see Andy Reid in it when it first showed him. I'm like, oh, is that an impersonator? Is that going to be like a fake? Oh wait, it's actually Andy Reid, and then it's Patrick Mahomes, and then pretty good. I enjoyed it. That was nicely done.
I had no opinions on it, and will continue having no opinions on it until about 1:30 today.
Okay, so I learned that Josh will hold his opinions until we find out things that he learned, things that were the funniest for him, or things that may or may not have been the best from the weekend for him.
This is the cliffhanger. Did I just learn that Andy Reid had a commercial? Did I think it was funny, or was it the best thing I saw all weekend? And that's something I'm not going to reveal until LFB.
Well, it was going to be my funniest, but I guess I'm going to have to change it to the Mizzou game now.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, didn't seem necessary, right? That didn't feel warranted with what we're talking about. It was like just walking down the hall and somebody just punching you for no reason. Like, oh, hey, man. Oh, well, F me. All right, cool. I'm just going to go stand over in the corner.
A totally unnecessary act of violence, like Georgia in the fourth quarter.
Like, what? Cool. Well, I hope
sort of a disappointing end to an hour that really started off pretty well. Kind of reminds me of some football I saw this weekend.
Yeah, Beards, I hope you enjoy rooting for Lance Leipold in Wisconsin. We'll take a timeout. We'll wrap up this hour next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is this guy has a rough luck with the mouth.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, one more hour to go, wrapping up this hour, hanging out at Blue Hills Country Club for the Kids Foundation, for the Kids, KC.org, F-O-R-E, theKidsKC.org. You can go there, check out, see how you can donate, give back all of the money, the proceeds, over, $5 million, I think, something like that. Millions of dollars have been raised to give to Children's Mercy over the years, whether it be to buy a new ambulance or different things for the children that are there. And now all of the proceeds are going to the Children's Mercy Anxiety and Depression Clinic that is going on there. So,
close in on $6 million on the website. Woo. $5.75 million. Let's keep that ticker churning.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the 5 stood out, but yeah, almost $6 million, and they will raise $1 million today with this golf tournament. The dinner coming up tonight, which you can buy tickets to as well. So we'll continue more Zone right after this from Blue Hills Country Club.
This is Brian Haney, voice of the King.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Enjoy the rest of the day off. Thank you,
I
sir.
won't, because I'm going home to my family.
What a great dad.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, final hour here on a Monday edition of The Zone. We've been talking a lot of Chiefs football today. 41-31 winners last night over the Bucs. They get set a week from tonight against the Raiders at Arrowhead Stadium, hanging out at Blue Hills Country Club today for the kids' golf tournament, FORE, thekidskc.org, where you can go and check out the silent auction going on right now. Some awesome items available. You can figure out how you can donate as well if you want to help out in any way that you can. And also, they still have tickets for sale for tonight's dinner that all of the proceeds go to Children's Mercy Hospital with the Anxiety and Depression Clinic there at Children's Mercy for thekidskc.org, FORE, thekidskc.org. We'll get Learn Funniest Best coming up later on this hour. Andy Reid, let's hear another clip from him meeting with the media today. Here is Andy Reid. Seren asked if Patrick Mahomes' ability allows him to hold some plays back until later in the season.
Yeah, I probably would say that, Seren. Although we did use a couple of them yesterday, and the couple that Scantling caught were somewhat that. One of them for sure was. It was a pump pass, and so you fake a screen and come out, or and he did a nice job with that too. So we're still able to use some things. The guys like that stuff, and we just sit here as coaches and you kind of weigh out which ones you wanted to be successful at the same time. You can't, against a team like Tampa Bay, you can't waste a first or second down. Not against that crew. They're too good on third down. So you got to make sure that they fit into the program. But I'd say, going back to your original question, yes. I mean, you weigh that out when he's moving around and doing the things he does and the production he gets.
And then defensively, I mean, you guys had an historic day as far as shutting down the run and making Tampa one-dimensional. You're doing it without some key pieces, right? Willie's still suspended, Trent McDuffie out, Michael Dana out. I know you're not going to say, "Oh, this is the best defense I ever had," or but is there a level of excitement that it's going to be one of your better ones? Certainly here in Kansas City, that there's a lot more there for this defense that's doing some pretty special things.
Yeah, so I think we need to keep growing there. I think the thing that makes me most excited is the influx of young guys that we've got, and those guys having an opportunity to grow and get better. And so you can see you can see if you guys keep working and do it day in and day out, you work, then you have a chance to be something special. But if you have to stay in that frame of mind. If you start getting caught up in all the outside noise, then you're going to plateau, and you can't do that. You can't do that in this league, or you get skunked. So we've just got to keep growing, and young guys keep getting better.
So I mean, one more week without McDuffie, a couple more weeks without Willie Gay, and we'll see when they can get Dana back. But they have not only played well, but they played well while missing a couple of key pieces on this team. And if you said Willie Gay and Trent McDuffie were going to be out for an extended period of time, that would be really concerning for how good this defense is. And really the worst performance, quote-unquote worst performance, was against the Bucs, and they gave up 31 points in a game that they gave up 3 yards rushing. So, I mean, it's like, take it with a grain of salt. It's relative in what worst means. But to this point, you've got, Tom Brady had his best game of the year. So, there's a lot of excitement for what this defense can be. And you go with game flow, you see, the complementary football, how you can go and win a game. And I would love to hear from Steve Spagnuolo, what Friday we'll hear from him, and just know that, or ask, how much of the game plan might have been adjusted. Like, did they adjust when the Chiefs' offense was starting to really roll, from the beginning? But you had that feeling that, okay, this team's ready to go. This team is out here and they're playing, and we're going to put up some points. As they get up 14-3, 21-3, at that point, does Steve Spagnuolo change his game plan a little bit and say, the Ravens lost to the Dolphins because they gave up quick scores, big plays, and not necessarily, some of those were easier touchdowns, but they didn't make Miami drive the length of the field with a longer sustained drive to score so that you would then minimize the amount of possessions they had. If last night, if it changes at all, the game plan that he had, I don't know. Maybe it was the exact same game plan, and they would have put up 31 points last night if the Chiefs, only scored, 28, and they would have lost that game. Who knows? But I think that has to play into it. Is when you see that happening, and as we said, the Chiefs gave up 3 points when that game was within 3 scores. The other 28 points happened when the Chiefs were up by at least 3 scores each and every time the Bucs scored. Did Steve Spagnuolo change some things up? I don't know. Even if he didn't, I still think the defense was pretty good and did enough.
You just heard Andy Reid say that Patrick Mahomes allows them to change what they're doing offensively. Yeah. It stands to reason that Steve Spagnuolo is not going to pull out his double secret blitz package for Tom Brady if he thinks he might want to use that again in January because the offense is producing, the defense has done enough. This is a Craig Stout question for sure. We might be due for him on Thursday. I'm not sure. I think we can't this Thursday, right? This is a Craig question, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if he came on here on Thursday or whenever we talk to Craig next to say, yeah, Spags kind of got a little vanilla there in the second half. They were eating the Buccaneers alive whenever they were actually trying to score and trying to keep this game at a healthy distance. And then later on, as happened a couple of times, the defense, let some stuff. And maybe offenses are just figuring things out as games go on. Who's to say? But wouldn't surprise me at all if you said, yeah, the defense was playing a little bit less hectically to go get the blood in the water because it was all full of blood in the water. I think I've made a very messy metaphor, but the Buccaneers were bleeding all over the place. There's a shipwreck. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Just that offensive line, just a bunch of chum out there. Just go
chum. That's right.
And get it. Attack.
Did you see this Chris Jones stat, by the way, from this week? It's this could be the best. Seth Walder tweeted out highest pass rush win rates at defensive tackle in week 4 so far. First of all, Tershawn Wharton tied for 5th in the NFL at a 25% pass rush win rate. That's spectacular. 25% is excellent. I'll give you Christian Wilkins in 3rd, 29.4%. Great day. Shelby Harris at 2nd place, 42.9%. Chris Jones, defensive tackle pass rush win rate per Seth Walder of ESPN Next Gen Stats. Chris Jones's pass rush win rate last night was a flat, even 50%.
Wow.
That can't be right. that is what I trust Seth Walder in his numbers immensely. 50% is nuts. That's crazy. I don't need to explain percentages, but that's winning as much as you lose as a pass rusher. As a pass rusher.
I'm looking here, and I'm seeing that Chris Jones had 1 tackle and 1 quarterback hit. Are you sure?
Did not affect the quarterback. Did not. Bum. Got to trade him. Got to cut him. Said too many naughty words last week. My theory is that he took all that naughty word power, that energy that he had, he internalized it, and he made him a superhero.
Yeah, and you know what? And he recovered the fumble. And so that was good. He reached down, he picked it up, he didn't just fall on it, but he did recover the fumble. L'Jarius Sneed got there, knocked it loose, and that was a big play because we were talking about, okay, this is a team that, at that point it was 14-3? Was it 14-3 at that point when it was the 4th and 1 and they didn't get it with the pass to Edwards-Helaire? And it was like, okay, well, here's a chance for this team to go. Or maybe it was 21-10. It was 21-10 at that time. And so it was, they went down and scored.
Yes, they did.
You now get stopped. So what happens if the Bucs go down and score right here? All of a sudden it's 21-17. And this is a different ballgame and you can feel momentum shifting. Nope. 1 play. All it took was 1 play, got the ball back. So, yeah, defense did enough, did their job in the game, and I think there's a lot of excitement around this team and the defense. And you're right, when Andy Reid says, it changes up, depending on the opponent and you weigh the things of what you want to show and what you want to use in different games. And against the Bucs, he said that they showed some of those plays that they hold some things back. He said, but they used some of those plays. One of those being the fake screen MVS down the right sideline, which was a big gain as well, and that worked out perfectly. It was beautiful. He also schemed open Edwards-Helaire on the 4th down and short. He also schemed open, Jerick McKinnon for a touchdown that Mahomes missed and overthrew him in the flat, and then the next play did his run around spin flip to Edwards-Helaire. So I am happy that Mahomes missed Jerick McKinnon on that flat route. Thank goodness he did, because if he didn't miss him, it's like, oh, McKinnon got the touchdown near the goal line. It was a great play design, and they score, and we would just be talking about it, one of 1,000 plays that Mahomes makes all the time, and plays that are schemed up. Instead, he misses that, and then he goes and does what Mahomes does, which made it even that much more special. And we heard Edwards-Helaire after the game was over last night, describe it as just simply saying that, you know what, that's just Pat. And so we wanted to put something together in honor of Edwards-Helaire, and that's just Pat. So take a listen.
That's Pat, man.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat.
And Kelce goes with Mahomes, who tried to get away from it, flips it out there, and it's complete to Juju Smith-Schuster for the first down.
A lot of people ask, who's he? It's Pat.
Mahomes rips it, and it's caught by Kelce for the first down in front of Carlton Davis.
That's Pat, man.
First down, deep shot down the middle of the field, brought in at the 15-yard line by Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
A lot of people ask, who's he? It's Pat.
Mahomes, he'll dance out to the left with some space to take off and lean forwards for the 10-yard line and get the first down.
That's Pat, man.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat.
Mahomes out of the pocket and on the run. Sky Moore inside the 10. Moore at the 5-yard line.
A lot of people ask, who's he? It's Pat.
Mahomes to the goal line and in for the touchdown, Jody Fortson. Everybody's getting into the end zone here tonight.
That's Pat, man.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat.
You never know with these guys. From the 2, Mahomes escaping, on the move. Mahomes stops, spins, flips it forward for the touchdown to Edwards-Helaire. Mahomes straddled the line of scrimmage, flipped it to Edwards-Helaire for the score.
Here comes Pat.
That's Pat, man.
What are the odds that either you, Josh, or Beards know what that is from?
It's from an SNL skit that was turned into a movie.
Did you know that before we put that together, or did you find that out later on?
I knew that before it played just now.
Just now, after it played the first time in the 10 o'clock hour?
I Googled it the first time.
Good for you. Absolutely. Beards, do you have any idea
No
what that was
clue.
from before? Okay, great. Yeah, I'm glad so many of us in the 10 o'clock hour had texted and tweeted about it's Pat. So I appreciate that. You hear it's Pat. When Clyde Edwards-Helaire says it's Pat, that's Pat. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that is Pat.
Jason, I hate to tell you here, but actually, he doesn't go by Pat. He goes by Patrick.
Yeah,
Pat's his
Since
dad.
when?
Yeah,
Since when?
His mom hates that.
Yeah, I think they've talked about that publicly.
Oh, well, I guess my question would be then why do all of his friends call him Pat?
He has friends?
His mom's not his friend?
He has a lot of friends. Well, I mean, Kelce says Pat. Edwards-Helaire just said Pat. Andy Reid calls him Pat. Everybody that talks about Patrick Mahomes,
We're not allowed to call him Pat.
Besides the media,
we're not allowed to call him Pat.
And the number of Chiefs fans that are watchdogs for anybody that might say Pat. Hey, Pat's his man. He goes by Patrick.
That does sound like a cartoon dog, by the way. You nailed that.
Calls him Patrick. You don't call my son Pat. You don't call my Pat.
Jason, really quick, is there anyone currently who can physically see you right now? Because I just hope somebody from 15 feet away just glanced out of the corner of their eye and just got to see whatever you were doing for the last 30 seconds.
Nobody that doesn't know me already. Nobody that would be surprised.
Did
by,
Dylan get to witness that? Is he still out there? Somebody?
Dylan's sitting That would be the one who is not surprised. Doesn't know me already. So Dylan's sitting right here. Didn't flinch. Just sat right through that.
just 1,000-yard stare into the middle distance. Just thinking only 45 more minutes and then I get to leave.
I would like people to like start like at tweeting Edwards-Helaire. You know his name is Patrick. And then like at Killatrav. His name is Patrick.
But your
You're calling
avatar,
him Pat, but his name is Patrick.
Your avatar has to be the cartoon bulldog from Tom and Jerry, like that, because that's the voice that we've assigned to you. So those are the rules. Sorry.
That's perfectly fine, but you have to then, Juju. Nobody calls him Pat. It's Patrick. When you talk about him, Pat throwing you the ball, are you talking about his dad pitching, or are you talking about the quarterback number 15?
What is this?
Because
dog's
his dad
name?
goes like Pat.
Spike, also Butch, also Killer. I mean, really, the continuity wasn't the best part of Tom and Jerry.
He goes by many names, just like Patrick, Pat, Levon, PM2, QB1.
Showtime.
Showtime. Remember that was going on for a while?
I'm glad we got away from that.
Was that his rookie year, or not rookie year, obviously? But was that 2018 or was that 2019? When did Showtime?
Yeah,
get
that was
rolling?
the first year, I think.
That was
Monday
whenever
Night
I think that was MVP campaign / can we give this guy a nickname? And the answer was that you probably shouldn't force a nickname on anybody. Just let it happen,
Was anybody else calling him Showtime besides Tessitore?
ESPN.
Yeah, it was
that's
just.
What I mean, like, it was Monday Night Football where Tessitore just goes, Showtime! Mahomes is Showtime! It's like, I've never heard anybody call him Maybe I'm just completely out of it, and I've missed the first, month or so of people calling him Showtime. But all of a sudden, Joe Tessitore, like every other play, now granted the left-handed pass and all of that stuff was Showtime, but it just was like, is his name Showtime? Okay, I guess. I prefer HBO now, but Cinemax is fine. Stars, he's one of those guys. Why not Hulu?
Hey, and I hate to correct you, but actually, whenever it's a throw by number 15, it's actually a pass trick, just for future reference.
I like that. Because he goes by pass trick, not past.
Just in case his mom's listening. Hello, Mrs. Mahomes. I'm trying to keep Jason in line. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Do you think when his mom is around the team, she has like a sit-down one-on-one intervention with Andy Reid about, Coach, his name is Patrick?
That's basically what I think my mom does. Like, my long-standing rule is just like family mostly calls me Joshua, but everybody else calls me Josh. And so like all of my written stuff says Joshua, but the couple of times where you've been like, Jason Anderson here, Joshua Brisco, and Beards, I'm always like, ooh, ew, who gave you permission to say those last two vowels in my first name? You don't know me like that. But
you can't talk about my loser uncle. I can talk about my loser uncle.
Is that a reference? It sounds like a reference.
No, I just just in general. That's how families work.
I'm trying to guess from here to try to see if I can sniff out the references before you get disappointed in me, which is sort of like a reference to my family again, just being disappointed in me in advance.
That's right. No, they're disappointed in Joshua. We're fine with Joshua.
That's right. Actually, that's a good point. Maybe you just start calling me Joshua whenever you're disappointed in me, which will proceed to be pretty much all the time. Therefore, Pat, Patrick, etc. Full circle.
How often was your full name used?
I wasn't a huge full name, like, yelled at kid as far as I can remember. I was the first child, so I might have gotten the extra patience, the extra babying or whatever. So I imagine my full first name being used was sort of a Joshua, a real 3-syllable experience, but I didn't get a lot of Joshua Bradley! That was not a regular in my childhood.
Yeah, the first one, the spoiled child, shocker. That explains a lot. See, I was the fourth of 4 kids, and
also explains a lot.
I would get the first 3 names first. Jim, Mike, Mandy, Jason. Yes. You called the entire family. Yes.
You must have been looking for me.
Yes. Hello. Actually, it's I prefer Jason.
It's actually pronounced Jason.
It's actually I would rather you call me Patrick. So that's my dad goes by Jason.
That's right.
He didn't.
You're more of a Jace. We go Jace for you. A little Jas.
I've been called Jace by one person, and that's my aunt. That calls me.
All
Jace.
right, we'll make it two, Jace.
That's weird. I don't know why. I've never been called that before. It's fine. No big deal.
Got a Jace up our sleeve here, huh? Jason the Hole. Let's start calling you Jason the Hole.
Jason the Hole. Would that have been my mob nickname?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you put people in the dirt.
okay.
You're good at cards. Yeah, Jason the Hole.
That's okay. Yeah. Jason the Hole. Come see you. Okay. Another quilo. See you in the morning at the right Jason the Hole.
It's also what we have to dig out of every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in the hole. You're the one that put me here. So, in said hole. Do we want to do Learn Funniest Best on the other side?
I was trying. Sorry, man. I was trying to feed Beards a Mizzou joke. He wasn't following me. It was. We had a whole thing.
I could hear your mic
Cutting
turn off.
Damn it!
I could hear it cutting out, and I'm like. So part of me was like, am I dropping? But no, we've got a pretty secure, knock on wood, we've got a pretty secure line here. When that sound goes away, is Beards turning on his mic, or was Beards' mic turned on while we were talking and he turned his mic off? Like, all of those things are going through my mind when I'm hearing the mic turn off. But I appreciate that you having to feed Beards Mizzou jokes because you've got nothing better to do today.
I mean, it's a team sport, you know. I just thought something about you digging out of a hole, and I just hit the talkback button to Beards. I went, make a Mizzou joke. He looked back at me like, what?
Make a Mizzou joke.
Make a Mizzou on Saturday.
Dance, monkey.
Digging out of a hole. Come on, man.
Tell a joke, comedian. Come on, you're a funny guy. You're a funny guy, huh? I saw you on stage that one time. Tell a joke. Hey, this guy's really funny. Come over here. Hey, tell him a joke. Show him how funny you are. Go. Funny. Hey, magician, do a trick right here. Huh? Make a card disappear.
You know what was the joke on Saturday?
What, Matt Campbell's stones, or lack thereof, on 4th and... I'm just going to let my kicker kick it. Nothing can go wrong here. It's not like he's missed everything today. Nah, I'm not going to pick up 1 yard or half of that. I'll just rely on my kicker.
You think
that was a joke? That was funny.
You think
I don't, Josh.
You think Iowa
No,
State?
I don't.
You think Iowa State was kind of a paper tiger?
No, I think they were more of a dying cyclone. So no, I don't. I don't think paper tiger has anything to do with what happened between the Jayhawks and the Cyclones. Thank you very much.
Paper things have a way of going up in flames in the blink of an eye. I just thought that it might be an apt comparison, but I mean, if you don't think so, that's fine.
Yeah, it'll be the football program when Lance Leipold signs on the paper, the contract, and that contract goes up in flames of what it could have been. Well, that's cool though. The game day's there this weekend. That'll be fun for you, Beards.
No, that will be fun. And I do
and
think
the rest of the KU fans realizing there's a football program there in Lawrence. So good for you, Beards. Good for you.
No, thanks.
It's okay. Talk that talk.
Listen, it's weird that it took him this long to actually make a football program, but you know.
I know.
Yeah.
Filled it up.
Hey, it's a good first season for him.
You know what? It feels like it.
And look, man, we've mostly texted about this in private, so I hate to bring this business public, but I really do think Scott Frost is going to be the guy to turn that Mizzou program around. I think you're in good hands.
No, I don't think it's Scott Frost. I'm thinking maybe they should go the route of Charlie Weiss.
That could do it for sure. That would be.
Yeah.
Listen, I've got his phone number. We could call him.
Yeah. Do you think Charlie Weiss would work? What about Les Miles? Should we
He
go
won
the
a
route of Les
championship.
Miles?
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we talk about Les Miles going somewhere? I don't know. Maybe we go get a different Buffalo coach. Who's the next Buffalo coach? No, the crappy one, not the good one.
Eli
Let's
Drinkwitz.
go get another one. No, he was at App State.
He's going to be the next Buffalo coach.
Oh, well, good for him, man. Hope it works out for him. Is he still going to be recruiting St. Louis? I don't know. We'll find out. This is a Chiefs day. You know,
Chiefly disappointing day for you.
Yeah, and I like how losing to the best team in the country by 4 is somehow laughable to you guys. I do find that interesting.
No, I mean, like we always say, man, it's all about covering the spread, and Mizzou did that, and that's really important.
By 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions.
Yep.
They covered the spread. Yep. That's how good they were.
Right there.
That night.
Right there at the end. And this, real quick, everybody, hold on one second. Hold on.
If only Iowa State was out there on the field, maybe they would have won the game.
Hold on one second,
Only it was Iowa State.
just real quick, just to kind of protect you, the text line and everything here. Hold on. This is our mandatory Kansas State football mention.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to make sure because they're good, but they're like good in kind of a normal way, so it's easy to gloss over like being kind of normal and good and like ranked as expected. So
Absolutely.
K-State isn't the butt of the joke or the headline of the fun, just because that's kind of how things worked out. It's not because we hate Manhattan, Kansas, or anything. Just so everybody, I just want the K-State fans to know.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that because last week we were clowning the Big 12 and talking about how good of a game Kansas State and Texas Tech is, and that should be nationally televised. And somehow that was twisted to me making fun of K-State.
Can you just say
just
really
interesting.
quick?
It was just interesting how that happened. But,
I want to protect you and your own interests. Can you say something positive about K-State football, just that you believe without like sarcasm or anything?
I do it all the time. I did it all off season.
One example of it now.
I did it before the season. Yeah, they are really good as expected.
Come on, man! I said serious. Don't hit the button.
That is serious.
Well, yeah, but you made it sound less serious when you made that big Family Feud missed answer sound effect. It really undercut your point.
You did that. I'm on location. How do I have a buzzer next to me?
I mean, it buzzed when you said that I did it.
You're on video.
I don't think there's going to be any evidence of any of that.
Sure. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about the things that we learned, what was funniest, and what was best from the weekend. I think Beards will probably have the same thing for learn funniest best. Isn't that funny? Your team is ranked in the top 20, yet you still care about the team east of the state line. Boy, I mean, rent-free, Beards. Rent-free. I'm going to have to – Missouri fans are going to have to evict you eventually because you've just been living there rent-free for a long time. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone.
And there are guys you feel like are going to be. Are there guys
With Jason Anderson.
Boy, that's an unfortunate slip up.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, Blue Hills Country Club, our location today for theKidsKC.org is the website, the foundation for the kids, FORE, theKidsKC.org. They've got the silent auction going on today, right now, at fortheKidsKC.org. You can go check out all the cool items and place a bid. You can also see how you can donate and just simply give back the money, almost $6 million that they have raised to give to Children's Mercy throughout the years, and going to that anxiety and depression clinic there at Children's Mercy. All of the money that is raised today, the proceeds go there. They also have their the big dinner tonight, which you can also purchase tickets at fortheKidsKC.org to attend that. Well, they'll have other auction items, and Bill Self in attendance, and other members of the national championship team. If you're just joining us, some news from the Denver Broncos, and that is Javonte Williams not only suffered a knee injury, he suffered what seems to be a pretty devastating knee injury, and he's certainly out for the year. We'll see how long he's out. But a number that I just saw retweeted by Benjamin Albright, multi-ligament knee injuries are devastating. Research shows return-to-play rate is 64% for NFL players, but return to pre-injury level is just 30% for those that suffer a multi-ligament knee injury. And that is Javonte Williams, who is a fantastic player for the Broncos, that is out for the year, and we'll see how much longer he is out for. I have not seen, nor have I looked in the last hour, so I probably should have looked, but I hadn't seen anything on Randy Gregory at this point. And now I'm just looking through here. I mean, no, I don't see an update on Randy Gregory for his MRI. He left yesterday's game, and it was feared that it was going to be some sort of a knee injury with him, and it was just the seriousness to Randy Gregory. If the Broncos lose the game to the Raiders and lose Javonte Williams and Randy Gregory in the same day, would be pretty devastating. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. 913-912-4810. Let's get into Learn Funniest Best, what we learned from the weekend, the funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. I have a feeling what Beards and Briscoes will be, but I'll try to change it up a little bit for you guys. So what I learned this weekend was that, did you guys see that Joey Gallo got his third sack fly this weekend?
No.
Baseball still going on?
Is his third sack fly
in his career?
That's what I thought. Unbelievable.
Joey Gallo recorded the third sacrifice fly of his career. I thought it was a typo. I thought somebody was going to say of this game, and they said of his career, and I'm not sure how somebody who has hit almost 200 home runs in his career and has a
2,300 at bats.
2,300 at bats, 200 home runs, almost 200 home runs, almost 400 RBIs, and he's got 3 sacrifice flies. How is there not been a man at third? And I know he's a guy that strikes out and all that, but 3 in his entire career sacrifice flies? Like, that was astonishing to me, shocking. And that's what I learned this weekend, is that he recorded just his third sack fly of his career.
2,800 plate appearances for Joey Gallo, 3 sack flies. Truly remarkable.
You know what? Now I got to look it up. How many sack? Sorry, Nikki. How many sack flies does Nicky Lopez have? I've got to do it. Sorry.
I bet it's more than 3.
I don't know. I'm about to find out. I'm going to tell you. Okay, looking it up. Pull it. He's got 4 sack flies. Nicky Lopez has 4 sacrifice flies. Joey Gallo has 3.
176 career home runs, 3 career sacrifice flies.
Man, you know what the issue is there? People need to get on base in front of him, at least to third with less than 2 outs. Plenty of fly balls he hits. All right, what'd you learn, Josh?
I learned that the fishing world has been turned on its head. Are you familiar with this story?
First chess, now fishing?
That was my best. That was going to be my best.
I almost.
Oh my God.
I almost tweeted this or texted this to you guys. Like Friday afternoon or whenever it was that it began to break, so I could call it in advance. A good summary here from the SB Nation story, but I've been following this story for days now. Here's how SB Nation wraps it up. A fishing tournament in Ohio that was set to award $29,000 to 2 winning anglers was torn apart by a cheating scandal. A heavier than expected catch led to inspection by officials at the Lake Erie Walleye Trail, and they were stunned to find that weights and loose fish fillets, not McDonald's ones, like actual fish fillets, had been stuffed inside the fish. They began to get skeptical of the weights. They started slicing the fish open, pouring out metal, I guess lead weights potentially, fillets of fish inside. This crew, this duo that has been so clearly caught, I don't know what, red mackerel, is that a real fish? Red mackerel handed? Yes. This group has won recently, has won a lot, and has now totally turned the world of fishing belly up, some would say. Fishing, chess, poker as well. The cheating scandals are tremendous around the fringe sports right now, but this one here in fishing, truly a crappie deal.
Okay, well, I was going to...
Hey, Josh, would you get that buzzer out real quick for me? The other one's in the office. Would you just hit that right into the microphone, please?
Yeah, do you want me to mull it over first, or?
No, just go ahead and do it.
Thank you.
Maybe maybe those that are running these tournaments should have had their walleye on these guys. Oh, sorry.
You piece of carp.
You know what? Next time these guys are going and winning, why don't you just reel them in a little bit?
Bass.
Cast those guys right out of the sport.
That's what I learned this weekend.
By the way, have you seen the videos?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's where it all started for me. The videos are wild.
I was thinking, I was trying to figure out a way, could we play the sound? But we can't play the sound.
No.
We can't play the You just have to go, because every word is a curse word, because all of the fishermen in this tournament just start surrounding him. You piece of blah, just for 3 minutes straight, just screaming and yelling at him, because, like you just said, $29,000. Can you imagine if you finished second place or third place or whatever?
Jason,
They won $100,000 last year.
They've won over $300,000 in fishing competitions in the Ohio area, per the SB Nation story. $300,000. Who knows how long they've been doing this?
So do they open up a criminal complaint? Is that fraud? Because they're stealing the money.
I think it has to be.
I have no if you could just do that for a few years and then put in weights and then win all this money and then it's oh, yep, you got me. Sorry about that. Cool. I appreciate the house that I have now because of this. You guys have a good day. Enjoy the fishing tournaments and, you don't go to jail or face any repercussions. And,
yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm not of the integrity of the fishing world, that it seems like that would be a nice way to make money. But obviously in the fishing world, these guys' entire reputation, all of their sponsors and everything that they would probably make money off of, because their jackets were filled with a lot of different company names.
Yes, they look like NASCAR drivers.
Yes, absolutely. But, the guy who was running the tournament in the video, as he opens it up and he goes, "We've got weights and fishes," and he looks at him and it was like a half punch, half umpire in baseball.
Yes.
Get the hell out of here.
He threw him out. It was incredible.
He threw him out. It was unbelievable, man.
There have to be criminal charges here due to the money involved, the sponsorship involved. You simply cannot catch and release these guys.
Also, they should be smarter about it, because the second place that they had to beat was 16 pounds, and theirs was 33.
Just cheat better, man. Unbelievable.
What are you doing? 33. You got to beat 16. Let's see. 33. And the crowd immediately was like, these that's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. So people have been wondering about it for a long time, apparently, in the fishing world. They've suspected these guys have been cheating. So it took this long for somebody just to cut open a fish and see weights? Unbelievable. And an actual fillet of a different fish stuff down in there.
Incredible.
They put a fish in a fish.
Yeah, that's my favorite. It's just totally floundering around out there. Beards, what'd you learn?
I learned I hate Josh.
You didn't learn that. That's
no,
not
that's
new.
True. So through 3 games, Geno Smith has thrown a better completion percentage, more yards, and more touchdowns than Russell Wilson.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Let's ride.
That's right.
That's what I learned.
Wow, that's incredible.
And they have like almost the exact same number of pass attempts as well. They're off by like 1, and Geno has thrown 20 more completions at least.
Amazing. What was your funniest from the weekend, Josh?
It is the Andy Reid State Farm commercial. I was absolutely blown away watching it in real time. There is room to navigate the intricacies of this whole thing. We could do a frame by. You know what? I actually want to do this now. See if we can make a video of me doing like a telestrator sort of thing for the Andy Reid commercial. He opens up confident, addressing Jake from State Farm. Very believable, good acting all the way around, actively drawing on the face of this guy next to him. But really, the key moment, as Jake begins to explain that you don't need to give all these personal details for the personal price, whatever plan from State Farm, then Patrick Mahomes makes his cameo. The expression on Andy Reid's face, and then the total just chucking of the Sharpie. Good direction, good acting, good writing, just a perfectly executed commercial by Andy Reid, State Farm, Patrick Mahomes, Jake, the whole group.
I thought he delivered the I'm going to get to the bottom of this line really well.
Expertly.
As well.
Expertly.
Beards, funniest for you?
If you were watching football yesterday, you might have seen DK Metcalf get carted off of the field. Rest assured, it is not due to injury. He just had to go to the bathroom. He even tweeted about that later. He said that clinch walk wouldn't have made it.
It's amazing.
You know who could have really used getting carted off so that they didn't poop themselves over the weekend? Mizzou.
Oh, I was waiting for that one. I was shocked that you didn't get there earlier. Interesting.
This was my funniest planned ahead of time. Just adding in the Mizzou thing was last minute. It was great.
No, that's good. Very, very clever of you.
I do think it is rude that we are making Mizzou a punchline after their biggest win of the season.
I think it's funny that you're making Mizzou a punchline when there's been an irrelevant state of that for so long in that area. But that's fine. See, here's the thing. I don't want a rivalry. So I know you want a rivalry, Beards, because you can finally be a part of it finally. Which is cool. Good for you. I just don't want to do it.
Sort of like how the rest of the SEC feels about Mizzou.
Yeah. Oh, do they? Because I'm pretty sure. Can you name the teams in the SEC that have never won their division? Because Mizzou ain't one of them.
I don't think most people would have mentioned Mizzou because I think they would have forgotten they're in the SEC.
No, they would remember because they played in 2 championship games. You know who's never played in an SEC championship game? Kentucky.
Or Kansas, for that matter. That's what I thought you were going to say. And you're going to have me there. I mean, checkmate. KU and K-State have never played in an SEC championship game. You're 100% right.
KU's also never played in a conference championship game, so that's fine. Maybe they'll get there this year.
Hey, Jason, what was your funniest from the weekend?
My funniest is Beards getting annoyed that I'm not going to break when he extended the segment by his own little joke there.
Well, in fairness, it was your reaction to the joke that I really,
No, it's really my reaction to the 50th joke. The first couple, it's like, all right, Then as it starts to build and build and build throughout the hours, it's like, all right, enough. I get it. You had a fun weekend. You beat a coach that the shine is now off of him, and, he decides that kicking a field goal on 4th and 1 is the best move. That's great. Lance Leipold is awesome. Happy for KU fans. Good for them. Happy for K-State fans. Good for them. I thought Missouri played a really good game. Good for them. I'd like them to show up and play that way more often. I never thought they were going to win. It'd be cool if they did, but they're not winning a national championship this year or anytime soon or ever, just like the other schools west of the state line. My funniest this weekend was, besides the living rent-free in Mizzou fans' heads for KU fans, or excuse me, Beards.
Yeah.
My funniest was, besides the DK Metcalf, because I had that written down, Garrett Bowles and his hustle and attempt to tackle after the scoop and score for the Broncos-Raiders when the Raiders player was at the 5-yard line and Garrett Bowles was at the 12, and Garrett Bowles then dove after running at full speed and then dove and landed, shockingly, about 8 yards short of touching the Raiders player. That was my funniest, along with DK Metcalf, along with a few others. Oh, hey, we still have our best from the weekend. Beards, I don't know if we're behind or anything, but what was your best?
Don't worry, we'll be good. My best from the weekend, don't worry, Jason, this is nothing about you. The Phoenix Suns over the weekend lost to the Adelaide 36ers, team from Australia.
Mm-hmm. See, Beards, 3D Chess, they're trying to tank the value of the franchise before Robert Sarver sells it so he gets less money in the sale. 3D thinking, man. You gotta be 7 steps ahead. And right now, the Suns throwing a game to an Australian team, taking money out of Robert Sarver's pocket.
It's a great move.
Thank you.
Great move. My best was the fishing tournament, so that's already been talked about. What was your best?
I saw last night the Skip Bayless tweet was going around. That was very funny in the in all the conversations we had this offseason and everything. An old tweet from Skip Bayless said, "You can get away with the way Mahomes plays quarterback only for so long. Poor footwork, flat-footed sidearm fling, interception." And so I thought that was getting recirculated in maybe he tweeted that in early 2018 or something. He tweeted that at 10:14 p.m. local time last night. It is the year 2022, and we're still talking about how Patrick Mahomes can't keep getting away with this. Skip Bayless can't keep getting away with this. There has to be an intervention, man. Somebody get Skip Bayless LASIK. I will pay for it. We will figure it out. We have some we can make this happen. We got to fix that man's eyes. Something terribly wrong is happening in the Bayless household.
He knows what the deal is. It's performance art.
Yes.
It is playing a role. He's playing a character. He does the same thing with LeBron. Congratulations, Patrick Mahomes. You are now in Skip Bayless's mind the greatest the greatest football player that ever lived.
Maybe both.
He's got the LeBron treatment now.
He really does.
Huh?
He really does. That really is what it is. And
it's performance art. That's all.
And sometimes some good art demands its recognition. And Skip Bayless occasionally, man, he's Mozart out there, like Andy Reid would say.
Yeah. Or Houdini sometimes, like Travis Kelce would say about Patrick Mahomes. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back and wrap things up here at Blue Hills Country Club. A little bit of zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. Zone with Jason Anderson.
Got 18 reps in the bench.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, that'll do it here on a Zone on this Monday edition. You know, the Chiefs won over the weekend. 41-31 last night. They get ready for the Raiders Monday night, returning home. Getting back into the AFC West, which is just a different animal than we thought it would be 4 weeks into the season, mainly because of some of the injuries that have taken place. So,
and because of teams other than the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Because of the injuries and the Raiders starting 0-3 in their losses, the Broncos and Russell Wilson kind of just looking like an okay quarterback, and the Chargers doing what the Chargers do, winning the offseason and then losing the battle of attrition. That's what they do. For thekidskc.org, FORE, thekidskc.org. Go and check that out. See how you can give back to Children's Mercy like they do.